The story kicks off with someone yelling that they can't stand this. At that moment, a blue glow seems to come back to life. The boy opens his eyes and suddenly jumps out of bed. Clearly out of breath, you can guess what just happened. He's thinking about whether he actually died and why his body feels warm again. Plus, his hand is smooth like it was 10 years ago. That's when he looks around and realizes he's in the dorm. He quickly grabs a pillow, checks his phone, and sees a girl dancing. He checks his face in the mirror and sees no scars. You already know what that means. Yep, the jerk reincarnated, right before the apocalypse kicks off. He remembers what went down when he became the 10th war god of Dragon City. 2 other war gods from the neutral zone invited him to a party. But in the middle of their chat, a high-level zombie crashed in. While he was fighting that thing, he got hit from behind, and the 2 Dan war gods helped the zombie take him out. Then a girl comes up and asks Lindsay if he liked the gift from her family. On the ground, he asks why she's there. That's when he learns that demons made a deal with the Lai family. The girl, Yeo Jing, was the prettiest in school, and he was always glad to have her around. What he didn't know was that she was only with him because of the young master of the Li family. They used him as much as they could, and when he got too powerful, they took him out. This was after he helped the Li family become one of the top 3 in Dragon City, but now he's back in the present. With the strength he had, he could have easily wiped out the Li family. But he never thought he'd be betrayed like that. But now he's back to when she was still just his girlfriend. Then he gets a message on his phone. Yojing says she's going to teach some kids so she can't celebrate his birthday with him. But poor Lindsay already knows that at this time, the only lesson she was giving was thanks to the Li family. On that day, he got a video gift he'd never forget. Wow, it looks like our guy got totally played. He says it's cool, but first, he wants to meet her in the shed behind the school since he misses her. She agrees to come since it's his birthday, but it has to be quick. He knows that the guy she's with, Lai Hao, seems to want revenge because of something his dad did ages ago. Back then, he had a ton of plans to celebrate with Yo Jing, but instead, he got a video that humiliated him. Now, though, he's back and won't let that happen again. Outside, everyone was wondering why the sky looked red. Little did they know, the end was near. But Lindsay knows that at 7 tonight, it all kicks off, and most people there have no idea they won't make it out. He then heads to the shed. He bursts through the door. In the back, he sees Yo Jing sitting in a chair. She tells him to hurry up because she has to teach the kids. But he's already pulled a blade from his sleeve and says there's no rush. He has a little surprise for her. He slowly moves closer, and she tells him to spit it out or she's leaving because she has better things to do. Suddenly, he grabs her by the throat. Desperate now, she calls him a psycho and begs him to let her go. But he reminds her that on March 16th, she spent 53,000 at a fancy hotel in Modu. Then, on the 29th, she dropped another 109,000 yuan. Confused, Yo Jing keeps asking what he's talking about. He keeps listing dates and amounts she's spent. That's when she starts to realize these hotel names ring a bell. He then says that on April 13th, she spent 409,000 at the Magic Bar. That's when it hits her. These are all the dates she met up with Lai Hao. At that moment, she asks him to hold on a second to explain everything. He replies that he's really looking forward to that explanation. He snatches her phone and unlocks it. There's a message from Lai Hao saying she's excited to meet him and that the fool thought she was going to teach kids. Clearly, that was all Lindsay needed to see. He suddenly lets her go, drops her to the ground, and starts playing a video. Right before the video kicks off, he calls Lindsay the dumb boyfriend and gives him a shout-out. A moment later, the video echoes those same words, wishing him a happy birthday. In the video, she questions why he thought a girl like her would fall for a loser orphan like him. Freaked out, Yo Jing wonders how he already knows the whole message before even hearing it. Linja keeps repeating the message, saying if it weren't for Lai Hao, she would have never gotten involved with someone like him. The poor girl is losing it. She didn't send that video to anyone. So how does he already know? She then says in the video that if it wasn't for him, she wouldn't have gotten mixed up with Lai Hao. Then she thanks the loser. That's when it hits her that everything has been exposed. Lindsay just keeps staring. When the next question is if she's not curious about how he knows all this, she pauses for a second and shoves his arm, telling him to screw off. But Lindsay says that's exactly where she belongs. Honestly, I thought he might forgive her, but the guy doesn't hold back at all. The girl crumples to the ground like a bowling ball, landing like trash. With that, our guy lets out a deep sigh. He drops to his knees, feeling emotional because it took him 10 years to get here. He starts laughing, saying he was fooled for a decade, but he finally made it. She paid for everything she did to him, but clearly, that wasn't enough. Now it's time to take out that damn Lai Hao hiding in the Li family. That's when the famous overpowered system appears in the apocalypse. He checks his phone and sees it's 6:05. Everything was supposed to kick off at 7. So why is the system already showing up? The system just says it's there to enhance the gaming experience. Digital circles start popping up around him, and the system prompts him to pick his first ability. Not just any ability, but a super hack. What he gets is the ultimate item drop. This means every creature he takes down has a 100% chance of dropping something. Since everyone else only has a 1% chance, this is clearly way too powerful. While others have to kill hundreds of zombies, he gets stronger with everyone he takes out. It was so good he even asked the system if he could trust it. The status window pops up, clearly showing that his super hack is active. At that moment, he's already thrilled about how strong it is. The guy who translated this must think I'm some magician reading this stuff upside down. What a jerk. But what really matters is that our buddy Lin Z is ready to take down the Lei family. The only issue is he's just a lonely orphan while they have a massive family. Not only do they have loads of soldiers, but they also have some secret techniques. Plus, he's always wanted to know why the Li family hated him so much. The original plan was to get stronger quietly and then hit that family. But now with these hacks, he won't have to wait that long. With that, he steps out of the shed, and our guy isn't forgiving his wife, Hugh. No way. The kid got his revenge in just 2 chapters. Outside, everyone is admiring the sunset, chatting about making a heart and snapping a nice photo. Our guy laughs, saying they have no clue that soon they'll be turning on each other, and not in a good way. But the rascal is off to the Love Hotel. He arrives, asks for an hour in a room, 3 bottles of water, and 5 buns. The guy says sure, and quotes him $40. Harboy tells them to send in the talented and hardworking number 3. Already in the room, he knows there are just 5 minutes until everything kicks off. He remembers that in his past life, this number 3 turned into a zombie boss. Luckily, he managed to take her out, and that's how he started to evolve. Clearly, this is the best choice, and he's going to do it again, especially with the system's talent. Someone at the door says number 3 is ready to come in for the service. She walks in all confident, calling him handsome and saying it'll be worth it. But then she pauses, looking a bit shocked. She gets closer and asks why he's bundled up in so many clothes. She's not a traveler, but she's eager to explore the mountains and wants to know what he's waiting for. But our guy tells her to hit the shower first. Once she steps out, he catches that awful zombie stench. Before everything went downhill, you could tell who was going to turn just by that smell. The trap moves closer to the door. Inside, she's urging him to stop dragging his feet, knowing he's up for some water fun. But he keeps stalling, so she shuts off his shower. Right then, his phone buzzes, letting him know it's 07 War. At the same moment, her body starts to get infected. Her eyes widen, her skin starts turning green, and she's making those typical zombie sounds. Our guy opens the door and sees her changing. She reacts fast, turning to him and trying to disarm him. But with 10 years of experience, he just delivers a quick strike to her neck. The poor girl's head hits the floor. The system even pops up a window saying she's dead. He lets out a sigh. And here comes the system, right, buddy? With that, he finally gets the Welcome to the Apocalypse game. Once it's on, there's no turning back, and he needs to figure out how to evolve. Zombies have great hearing but awful eyesight. 80% of the unlucky ones turned into zombies right away. The system gives him more tips. Taking down creatures will help him level up, unlocking new skills, stats, and talents. Plus, every creature he takes out has a small chance of dropping items of different ranks. Also, all human tech and weapons will be useless, so it's best not to even bother with them. And forget about communicating with any human-made devices. If you get bitten, you turn into a zombie. Also, it's better to avoid going out at night since the zombies get way stronger. The system mentioned it's given enough advice and won't chat again for about a week. The system's last tip is that the zombies are pretty weak right now, so it's a great time for him to level up a lot. Finally, the system wishes him good luck and tells him to have fun. A prompt pops up for him to choose a name. Our buddy Lin Z decides to go with the name Jia Yi. It probably has something to do with revenge based on what that guy said. With that, he gets congratulated for taking down a zombie, earning 1 experience point and a gold coin. Wasn't that supposed to be the zone boss? On top of that, he's the first player to kill a zombie, scoring the first blood achievement. He missed out on these global achievements in his previous life. But in this life, he's already got the first one. The system announced to everyone that Jia Yi was the first person in the world to kill a zombie and snag that achievement. A blonde girl named Ji Yao is stunned that she hasn't even finished reading the message, and people are already racking up kills. Another guy, Gao Ji, thinks it's wild that someone beat him to it. In this system, you can boost your strength, mind, physique, and agility. He's impressed by the base stats and figures it's thanks to that achievement. Also, The prestige stat helps you get better discounts and buy different items later on. Plus, the first Talon lets his first attack after midnight each day deal double damage. After checking out all this system stuff, he looks at the loot. From the first zombie, he got a meditation necklace that boosts his mind by 1% and recovery by 10%. His eyes light up when he sees that the 100% drop rate actually works. It looks like the hack is separate from the system since it warns him to be careful, so the real system doesn't catch on. But looking at the necklace, he knows he needs to get as strong as possible for now. The best place to start clearing out is this building. He starts walking down the hallway when something grabs his attention. There's a noise coming from one of the rooms. He slowly approaches, turns the handle, and finds a guy who's been transformed inside. Clearly, this guy's a zombie who hit the gym, so he's a bit tougher. But to him, it's still super weak. He dodges the first hit, ducks the second, and finishes off the third with a strike to the throat. Even after that, the zombie tries to charge him, but he quickly spins away, grabbing its face. With that, he takes down the second zombie. Still, he's bummed he couldn't finish it off in one hit. As usual, he gets a 100% drop and finds another low box. Inside, there's a voucher for cooked steak that, once activated, brings the food right to him. It wasn't super rare, but food is always good to have, so he adds it to his inventory. He walks over to his suitcase and pulls out a picture of a guy with his daughter. The axe in the photo suggests he was a mechanic. He checks room 208 and then 207 but finds nothing. He heads to room 206 and kicks the door down. He yells that it's time to clean up, but he's shocked by what he sees. The couple was so into it that even as zombies, they kept having fun. Yoon shuts the door, saying he forgot about the activities in that place. But he opens it again, saying it's wild they're doing that as zombies. The angry zombie lunges at him. He dodges, insisting he wasn't spying. The big zombie keeps charging at him. He tells the weak one he's too arrogant, then lands a hit right in the eye. The other zombie tries to sneak up, but he takes it out without even looking. He earns 2 more experience points, 2 gold coins, and best of all, 2 loot boxes. Now he realizes this system actually works. In his past life, 100 zombies got him a bottle of water. Now, having luck on his side is the best thing. He gets 2 cards that activate a skill to detect movements within 10 meters. Since he's in a rune-filled area, he uses it right away. Then someone heads up to the second floor, complaining that the guy is too loud. He tells him to kneel or he'll get smacked, but Lindsay easily dodges. And if you think he's just gonna let that punch slide, you're mistaken. The chubby guy spins around, telling him to stop dodging and start begging for mercy. Our guy says it would have been better to turn into a zombie since that would have given him some experience. Too bad, but he had to wrap it up now. What a brutal guy. He paints the hallway red. Still a psycho, he says you can't leave loose ends in the apocalypse. The reason for this guy's death? He was just too weak. He starts knocking on doors, asking to be let in. Of course, no one answers, so he moves to another door and says the delivery has arrived. But none of that is working. As he gets close to one door, he hears a gross sound and gets excited, saying there's a zombie inside. He barges through the door and finds a big guy already transformed. He tries to hit it, but this one is quick and dodges. The zombie tries to swipe at him, but he ducks. Taking advantage of being on the ground, he pulls off a capoeira move. With the zombie's arms up, he slashes its throat. Another one bites the dust, and as usual, he gets another item. This time, he scored some liquor. With that, he kept searching through the rooms. Eventually, he found a place for himself since it wasn't smart to be out at night. He took off his jacket, and surprise, our guy is fully leveled up. The system told him he needed 6 more experience points to hit level 3. The issue was, when he checked his phone, he saw it was almost over 8 sour, and the zombies would evolve, making him miss his chance to level up. Knowing how risky it would be to survive the night without that, he rushed out, looking for 6 more zombies. In the shed, he spotted a message from girl number 3 that could solve his problems. If there's a number 3 and he's already taken out another, that means there's one more. Those zombies had good hearing, so there was an easy way to find them. Just bang around until they showed up. He hears a noise from a room in the back. When he goes in, it looks empty. But then he hears a sound from one of the vents and thinks it's wild how fast they hid. On the stairs, 2 zombies are trying to climb up. Unfortunately, they're not very coordinated and end up tumbling down. One crashes into the other like a couple of clowns. He feels a bit bad for them, but he has other priorities. He quickly heads down and takes out the girl. Just then, another zombie sneaks up from behind. He quickly turns and takes it out too. Now he's just 2 experience points away, but his knife is getting dull. But hey, look at that golden light. He's about to get a nice item. He gets a horizontal cutting sword from the Tang Dynasty and 2 tasty buns. The sword adds 1 strength point and lowers the target's defense by 10%. He knows these weapons won't last long, but for now, it's awesome to have. He also adds more water to his inventory. Only 10 minutes left before the real chaos starts. With no other option, he has to take a chance outside. As soon as he opens the door, he spots some poor guy about to meet his end. The zombies see him right away and rush toward the hotel. But at level 1, they're still pretty clueless and bump into the door. The others come from behind and trip over each other. In his past life, he spent the first day just drinking and hiding in fear. He only fought the level 2 zombies who were way smarter, but in this life, he got the perfect opportunity. In a flash, he used the new katana to take out the whole group. For the start of the game, that weapon is top-notch. With those zombies down, he leveled up to 3 and got another attribute point. Then he hears another zombie. One more is coming, and this one seems a bit sharper. Or maybe she wasn't that smart since she walked right into the sword. But hey, at least she dropped a skill book. Then his alarm went off. At 8 p.m. something had shown up. In that instant, he sensed something and quickly stepped back. An explosion went off at the hotel's entrance. It was another level 1 zombie, but now it had the knight's power. The system warned him to be more cautious because things just got a lot more dangerous. He knows this zombie will keep getting stronger for the next minute. So, he has to take it out before it follows him into the room. He goes for a powerful strike. Even with the upgraded sword, it gets stuck. He uses his other hand to try to push it through. But man, the zombie pushes back hard. He has to pull back right away. And the worst part? He's only got a small axe left. Not wanting to get too close, he throws it like a boomerang. It gets lodged right into the zombie. While the creature is distracted, he moves in to grab the katana. He yanks it out and slashes. The creature is covered in cuts, but it's still standing. It glares at him and charges again. A moment of silence for the artist who got fired in Chapter 10, because the art style changed completely. But we're still picking up right from here. He steps back and swings again, hitting its neck. Finally, the thing drops to the ground. At least these zombies look better than the last ones. He starts gathering all the loot, especially since he can't be seen by anyone else. After 8 p.m., zombies are at least 50% stronger. He begins stacking the bodies at the entrance, worried that more might come, especially since he made a lot of noise. He sets up a sentry that will light up red when a creature shows up. Now he can finally chill out and decides to take a bath. It's time to check out the 4 boxes he got. Inside are a night ring, a bottle of mineral water, and 2 eyes of approval. He can't wrap his head around this new life of luxury after starving before. That night ring boosts his agility by 1 and cuts his presence by 30%. Now it's finally time to see what skill he got from that book. The system congratulates him and tells him that anyone can have unlimited skills here. But that's because it's super hard to get one of these books. Usually, between levels 10 and 80, people end up with 3 skills. The worst part is many of these skills don't even fit the people who get them. In the past world, the guy known as the God of Skills had 25 after 10 years of fighting through the apocalypse. In his last moments, he had 10 skills and was stronger than 99% of everyone else. But the key thing is how good the skill you get actually is. And then there's what Lin Z got, the boomerang/skill. Basically, he can throw his weapon for 120% damage. He's pumped because the best skills are always the ones that deal damage. Though, for now, it has a long cooldown. As his mind attribute goes up, that will get shorter. The system asks if he wants to learn the skill. Of course, he jumps at the chance and decides to try it out. But as soon as he stands up, his stomach growls. Better grab a bite first. Luckily, his inventory is packed with options. He eats, saying this food tastes like it's from a 5-star restaurant. Check out the boy organizing everything. The table is even tidy. Staring at the moon, he realizes he needs to do things differently in this life or he'll mess up again. He opens the system and grabs a pen. He jots down warrior and mage on a piece of paper. The classes differ because leveling up boosts different stats. For instance, a mage gets 2 points in mind every time they level up. Plus, there are rare classes like Ghost, which only 1 in 100 usually gets. In his past life, he got lucky and snagged it, so it shouldn't be too tough this time. Typically, you unlock the profession system at level 10 in this world. The Ghost class focuses on stealthy kills and boosts strength and agility. He starts writing down all the classes he remembers from the war gods. Checking the stats, he thinks about the best choice. He adds 3 points to strength and 2 to agility, then tries to remember all his encounters with a paladin knight. He also recalls a diamond item. With that in mind, he spends the night thinking about all the treasures and experiences that could help him. The scene cuts to a mansion where Selman hurls a vase against the wall. a blue-haired guy is upset, saying he can't relax with the whole planet falling apart because of Yojing. Her delay messed up the materials, and now he can't take out that jerk Lin Z. He thinks the whole apocalypse thing is ridiculous. The butler tells him to chill out since making noise could attract zombies. Lai Hao then suggests it might be better to send that loser Lin Z to meet his dad already. The butler realizes the kid is trying to get rid of any competition for the family leader spot. The issue is that with the apocalypse starting, he needs to keep his cool or he'll be in trouble. Lai then asks if his dad's mercenary team isn't on their way to find him. Once they reach Amodu City, they can catch up with those guys. Later, he plans to hunt down that Yo Jing, even if it means dealing with her dead body to make Lin Z suffer. The butler assures him that's doable since the mercenaries are trained to follow his orders. Just picturing it gets him all hyped up. Meanwhile, our guy is coughing. Fully geared up, he leaps out of the hotel. Outside, just as he thought, it's crawling with zombies, but in the daylight, they're a lot weaker. He pulls out the katana and does a boomerang slash. This takes out several monsters in the city until he finally hits level 4. Taking on those level 1 zombies was a piece of cake for him. Plus, that skill paired with the sword was just spot on. The only issue is the long cooldown, which eats up a lot of his time. So he decides it's time to focus on something really important. Of course, he starts opening all the boxes he got. One of them has an attribute item inside. This story is wild because it had a bronze item for upgrading gear. Lindsay gets pumped, saying it's super useful. He quickly uses the item on his sword, upgrading it to a Tang sword +1. Now, instead of ignoring 10% of defense, it ignores 15%. He puts his points into strength, and nearby, the system congratulates him for winning a hidden mask. This mask lets him hide his level and basic info for 30 minutes and can be used twice a day. Since he wants to stay under the radar, it's a really handy item. He puts it on, and the system gives him a thumbs up. Seriously, this guy is so lazy. After taking out the zombies, he lies down. He knows he needs to rest to hit level 5 before night and take on a certain place. We're definitely talking about the legendary dungeon, right? The author mentioned it won't have everything and is sticking to the same plot, man. In addition to the regular dungeons, there are special ones that can only be done once and offer better loot. But for now, it's time to head to Lichi Village. He also found a precise watch and equipped it right away. With that, he moved on, taking out a few more zombies. As he walked through the village, it felt deserted. He quickly spotted a door with a huge lock. Man, that blade was sharp, he just gave it a quick slice. He stepped into the house and started checking out the rooms. Then, behind a door, he spotted a red puddle. He slowly opened it, and suddenly, a hand reached out to him. With his little sword and now at level 5, he easily chopped it off. But something caught his eye, and when he glanced over, a hand was pushing through a door. The zombie went wild and broke through too, but our guy calmly swatted each one away. He kept moving through the house and spotted a girl in a family photo at the back. If I'm right, this is the one they mentioned earlier. He walks down the hall saying, "You can't have sympathy for anyone in this world." He opens the system to grab a bite to eat. As usual, he sets up a feast. Man, I've never seen an apocalypse hero as laid back as this guy. He checks his phone and realizes he'll probably hit level 5 on the way to the dungeon. He's done resting and gets up. He hears some sounds and walks over to the door. He knew he wasn't imagining things because he heard footsteps. Outside were Gaoji, the guy with the bandaged nose, and Ji Yao, the girl with glasses. They could smell the delicious food inside and were curious about how that was possible. Meanwhile, our guy was just listening from the side, getting ready to leave the house. Ji Yao said it's wrong to steal from others like that. Gabji replied that they're not going to steal. They'll just ask. If he doesn't hand it over, they'll beat him up. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But our guy is just watching Ji Yao from behind, taking it all in. And this guy isn't known for letting people walk away alive. Another one of them, Jika J, says the boy is a thief for breaking into their house. Jigao was mad because when her parents and brother turned into zombies, she locked everything up and ran away. She came back starving since the guy took everything. Excited, she says, "Fine. They'll have to take some from him too until blood's on her face." Our boy doesn't waste time and nails the idiot right in the back. What a hit. The guy got sent straight to the afterlife. This boy doesn't spare anyone. Lindsay mentions he was trying to save energy but couldn't let them attract more zombies. He tosses the katana and takes out the girl too, my friend. He even takes down another one. Honestly, I'm scared of this protagonist. He's not letting anyone survive. They introduce everyone, thinking they'd last more than 2 chapters. Our boy looks at Jukaji and says, anyone who abandons their sister is a waste. He had to finish them since they were planning to rob him. This guy is seriously unhinged. He walks away saying the government should reward him for his good deeds. And just like that, the house was wiped out. The street was packed with zombies as usual. Some were climbing a building. From the window, a woman says she sees a superhero. Another one shows up and tells her to hide so the zombies stop gathering. But you can bet an expert was passing through outside. The issue was you couldn't see his name or title as he leveled up. The girl says that's not important. They should shout and ask that guy for help. My friend, I don't know you, but if I could give you a tip, don't call for this guy. He's more dangerous than anyone. The husband says if he's hiding his info, something's off. Suddenly, our boy gets some hearts and a little dance on his phone. From the top floor, a girl shouts for her big brother, clearly wanting help in exchange for being rescued. But our guy totally ignores her and keeps walking down the street. To him, those little things on the ground mattered way more. The girl starts cursing him, saying she has over 30,000 fans, so he shouldn't be brushing her off. The crazy girl threatens to make him pay and grabs a vase. Seriously, don't do that. You have no idea who you're throwing that at. But off she goes, heading to her next life. Clearly, our guy senses something's off. He steps aside, and the vase smashes on the ground. She suddenly gets all sweet, saying she's just upstairs and scared of the zombies, so he needs to save her. She even offers to hold his hand. Girl, I doubt he's into that. He then pulls out a piece of meat soaked in zombie virus from his inventory and tosses it at her. That thing attracts any creature within 100 meters. But the girl isn't happy at all and starts cursing, asking if he didn't get that she wanted saving. Then suddenly, she hears a noise behind her. A horde of zombies drawn in by the meat shows up, making her another victim of our guy. The crazy girl was even live streaming on TikTok during the apocalypse. Soon, we're gonna need a new hero to deal with her. Zombies then started jumping off the building, heading straight for him. They landed all twisted, but he just kept walking calmly. He made his way to the Mudu Gymnasium. That was the spot he'd been searching for. In 2 hours, when night falls, it'll be the perfect time to go in. He also knew there was a wild silver-ranked chest in there. The system showed a warning, saying that when you see that sign, something special is going on. Wild chests are a type of treasure that can pop up anywhere, and anyone can open them. On the flip side, a boss chest has much rarer items, but it's way harder to get. As soon as he steps into the gym, he gets his first mission: defeat 100 zombies solo. The issue was that this place only had level 2 zombies, and taking out 100 of them was no walk in the park. He had planned to sneak around and grab the chests, but now that he had the mission, he had to get to work. Feeling a bit lazy, he asked the system what would happen if he just skipped this task. The system replied that if he passed on the mission, he'd get 100 gold coins as a consolation, but of course, finishing it would earn him way better rewards. He then headed to a room and broke the lock. Inside, he spotted the basketball zombie, and it was time to kick off the 100 kills, always moving forward and stabbing in the face. But wow, that thing took the hit. He had to hit it again right in the mouth. At least that jerk finally dropped the basketball. He found it funny that the guy must have turned into a zombie while playing basketball, still clutching the ball. And just like that, the 100% Dropbox appeared. He kicked the body a bit and went to grab his awesome flashbang. Sure, it's just a flashbang, but a super one. Nothing too complicated there. He was pumped because it was the perfect item for breaking into places. He also found the key to the gym's center. This was great since he wouldn't have to smash the door and could sneak in without drawing attention. With that, he moved in calmly. He took a look around, and the area was crawling with zombies. In the dark, the creatures were all slow and blind. Williams dashed to the ping-pong table and hid underneath it. From there, he started counting and found out there were 17 zombies just in that room. It was a risky move, but it also meant 17 item boxes. If he could stay quiet, no other zombies would come in. He only needed 4 more kills to hit level 5, and then things would get way easier. One was walking right by, so he decided that would be his first target. He whipped at the back of its neck. The first one dropped, and the noise alerted all the others. They immediately turned toward Linja. Now the horde was charging at him, but the little troublemaker was chilling under the ping-pong table. As they got closer, he kicked out 3 of them in the legs. The boy leaped out from under the table with a slick move. Not sure why he was showing off, but he landed right behind them. He rushed forward and took down another one. With that, he had finished off 4 zombies and leveled up to 5. Now he needed 100 experience points to level up. Realizing he was in a tight spot, he knew he needed to be quicker. He marked his spot and climbed onto the table. That's when all the zombies started coming his way, but since they were pretty dumb, they got stuck at the edge, making it easy for him to smack them in the face. Meanwhile, someone was watching from behind the door. A guy in a red shirt and bandana said he was having a rough time. "I feel you, man. And if I could give you some advice, it'd be to get out of here." The biggest threat had shown up. But the crazy guy was pumped, thinking a dude who takes out so many zombies must have a ton of loot. His plan was to wait for our boy to bite the dust so he could grab everything, but that wasn't happening. The zombie count was dropping, and the blonde guy realized he needed to help our boy kick the bucket. He'd do the big favor of bringing in more zombies to help send him off. Just then, another one walked into the room. Lindsay thought he was making too much noise, and now someone was banging on the door where the blonde guy was hiding. Seeing the door getting wrecked, he knew it wouldn't hold much longer. He had to take out the zombies in front of him and make a quick escape. But at that moment, 3 of them lunged at him. The Parker King pulled off another slick move and spun away. The issue was that more and more zombies kept showing up. Man, he skewered 3 of them. He ran back to rest under the table and noticed he had picked up a one-time potion that would restore 20% of his energy and an extra 5% every minute for 5 minutes. For him, being tired, it was perfect. As soon as he stood up, he tossed the sword, taking out another one. This time, he spotted a weird black box and quickly rushed to grab it. Inside, he found a bracelet that let him summon a spike skill once a day. Knowing skill gear was hard to come by, he put it on right away. Just then, the door finally gave way and a swarm of zombies started to close in. For him, having just gotten that item, it was the perfect moment. A bunch of zombies was heading his way. He jumped onto the table, waiting for them to get closer. Then he leaped over them and activated the bracelet. Suddenly, a ton of giant spikes shot up from the ground, and he declared that the game had really kicked off. The spikes kept popping up, taking out the zombies. That ability was as strong as a level 20 mage. More zombies came from behind, but the spikes took care of them easily. It seemed like that thing would keep on killing without him lifting a finger. He racked up a bunch of items and experience while waiting for the ability to cool down. The system explained it would be 24 hours before he could use it again, but he could also use mental energy to boost it. And, as always, it was the perfect time to grab all the boxes. He found a Fortnite bazooka that let him launch any object 30 meters, plus boots that boosted his speed by 20% for 10 seconds. His attributes were better than someone who had already unlocked a class. This meant he had at least double the status points of most people. Another wave of zombies was coming. He loaded a piece of meat soaked in zombie virus into the bazooka, fired it, and it caught all the creatures' attention. They moved to the corner of the room, and he activated the boots ability, easily leaving them behind. A little later, he was sitting on the stairs, worn out. There was only an hour left until 8 p.m., and he knew how dangerous it would get. First, this lazy madman needed to find a spot to rest. He kept walking down the halls with the master key he had. Before opening a door, he wondered why it was locked from the inside. He knew this was the gym's infirmary, and considering the time, it shouldn't have been locked. He opened it, hoping not to find another idiot who wanted to kill him. Slowly, he stepped into the room. Suddenly, there was a sword at his throat, and someone asked why he had the key. Our guy just grabbed the arm and squeezed the wrist. That made the blonde guy drop the knife, and our boy said he picked the wrong fight. I stepped back as he twisted the guy's arm. I thought he was going to finish him off right there, but instead, he stuffed a cloth in his mouth. He opened his inventory, grabbed a curtain, covered the window, and told them to turn on the lights. Out of nowhere, a nurse showed up, warning that turning on the lights would bring in a ton of zombies. He didn't give her a choice, and someone in the back ended up flipping the switch. If I had to guess, only the girl in tights would make it out. The blonde guy recognized our boy as the one who had been taking out zombies and wanted to steal the loot. Lindsay told him to stop acting all tough when he was so weak. "Come closer, my blonde friend. I think you're on your way to your next life." Our boy said he doesn't like people who hold grudges and slash the guy's neck. Everyone in the infirmary was scared, and somehow the girl had lost her tights. Our boy then pulled a knife from the guy's sleeve, said this guy was ready to kill him, and told them not to worry. He's a good guy. Naturally, everyone agreed, saying yes, he's definitely a great guy. But honestly, they were all terrified. Lindsay said he was a reasonable guy, and if they didn't mess with him, he wouldn't hurt anyone. Then someone stepped up. Could it be that our boy finally found some company? Or would there be another attack and another victim? The girl put her tights back on, stepped forward, and said everyone saw he deserved it. She asked the others, and they agreed, saying yes, he deserved it. Lindsay smiled, glad to see everyone was on his side. He realized he was way more tired than he had been in the morning. Being a lazy guy, he told everyone to clean the room because he wanted to rest. Of course, no one was going to go against him. He wrapped up the blonde guy and buried him. He was just checking out the queen of the tights, thinking he recognized her from somewhere. She was still at level 0, and her name was Jang Yeksu. When he spotted her name, he seemed to remember it. Back in his past life, when he was really struggling, she had already become a legendary healer known as the God Doctor. When he was in rough shape, he asked her to help heal his wounds. But she told him the injury on his face was tied to his soul and couldn't be fixed. Whenever he was in trouble, he sought her out for help. The downside was that even though she had an amazing profession, it turned her into a tool for others. She recalled that in the future, she would become a totally different person. Maybe it was destiny that brought them back together. Suddenly, they heard a noise from outside the door. Everyone got ready, waiting to see what would come through. Meanwhile, Lindsay was calmly checking his watch. Then he pulled out 3 cards, set a feast on the table, and started digging in. Clearly, everyone in that room had been starving for a whole day and was drooling. Yeksu gulped, asked where he got the food and if they could have some. He grinned, saying it looked like she had fallen for his trap. He told her that to get some, she'd have to help him out. Everyone was still buzzing with excitement. But the Queen of the Tights told him to just say what he wanted. She was already worried he'd ask for exactly what she was thinking. He showed her a paper and said he wanted all the medicines listed on it. A bit excited, she asked if that was really all he wanted. He replied yes, unless she was planning to offer something more. She said definitely not, and she'd start gathering everything now. The 2 guys were mechanics, and he quickly handed them a list of things he needed by 6 a.m. tomorrow. He gave them the items they'd need and explained that their food would depend on what they produced. Clearly, he needed to be careful, so he activated the watchful eye. The guy's inventory was full of items. He still had 22 days of experience left to reach level 6. He had a day left to finish the mission, so he decided to get some rest. With that, night came. The next morning, he woke up relaxed. The others clearly hadn't slept, spending the whole night working on his requests. Art Moy complimented everyone, saying they did a fantastic job. The doctor gave the nurse, who looked completely worn out, a pat on the shoulder. He handed each of them a card, saying they wouldn't need to fight anymore. Yexi was over the moon. She thought he was going to take them out once they were done, so she had a backup plan ready. Turns out, he wasn't as ruthless as she thought. Sorry to break it to you, girl, but he's actually worse than you realize. She then asked how to use the card, and he noticed no one really knew what to do in this world yet. He decided to lend her a hand as a thank you for her past help. He showed her the system and how to use the card to make things appear. She saw that and got super excited. Then, everyone activated their cards and started to feast. Seeing how confused she still was, he figured he'd share some tips in case she could help later. He told everyone to get out of there by afternoon. By then, he'd have taken care of all the zombies. He reminded them to keep an eye on the time. Yaksu warned him to be careful since there were tons of zombies outside, but he told her to focus a bit more on her own safety. When he stepped outside, there were indeed zombies everywhere, with a horde nearby. But after a full night of rest, he was ready. He took down the first zombie, and it dropped a fishing rod. He made sure to keep the body from hitting the ground to avoid attracting more zombies. With that, he started clearing the hallway. It didn't take long before he was heading toward the door. He opened the list and wondered how the zombies were managing this while being dead. The poor zombie was just hanging out in the bathroom, but as soon as he got closer, it turned and bolted. With its pants down, it took a tumble like a fool. Lindsay took out another one. He had to be careful since people at the gym were usually in better shape and could be stronger. Then he spotted the women's restroom. He approached slowly, worried there might be someone alive inside. He snapped back to reality, realizing it was the apocalypse, and whether he liked the women's restroom didn't matter anymore. He started to step inside. At first, he didn't find anyone and began checking each stall. Then, in one, he heard the sounds of 2 creatures. When he opened it, he found that the romance had continued even in death. It was unfortunate, but he had to break that bond. They sensed the attack but missed it easily. There was a bottle on the floor and once again they tripped over it. With that, he took out another 2. This guy's definitely not all there. He even started snapping photos of the couple. He oddly seemed to recognize them. It looked like they used to hunt together and had a synergy that made them unstoppable. Too bad they died on the 3rd day without achieving anything. As usual, it was time to check the loot box. He found a fusion card that let him combine 2 items to make a new one, possibly even upgrading to silver rank. He then glanced back and noticed a strange light coming from one of the stalls. He got closer and saw a chest floating above a pentagram. That was the wild chest, and he needed to stay there for 30 seconds to open it. He waited a moment, and a green apple showed up. He started hoping it would be some kind of strength or agility item. He checked the description, and it boosted his physique stat by 2 points, basically health. He would have preferred agility, but it wasn't too bad. He washed the apple and ate it right away. He was pumped that he was eating way better in this life than before. As he left the restroom, he felt like this place was hooking him up with some great stuff. Once outside, he ran into another crowd. This time, he really noticed just how big it was. He slipped into a corner to dodge attracting all the zombies at once. When 2 of them got close, he quickly took them out with a strike to the neck. 2 more showed up and they went down too. Man, this kid is really racking up the kills. He was pouring all his resources into boosting his strength. Inside a box, he found a lion bracelet. It gave him a 10% chance to scare someone for a second, freezing them in place. Then the system laid out all the gear slots and explained what could fit in each. He quickly put on the lion bracelet. Then he started strolling through the gym again, sipping on some juice. That's when he opened a room packed with zombies or maybe some dead doctors on Mount Shore. He figured that with the injuries and how the chaos happened, it had to be a zombie boss. This type of creature is way stronger than others at the same level, and it usually preys on humans. If humans aren't around, it even goes after other zombies. The tougher the creature, the easier it is for it to turn into a zombie. That's why out of a trillion mosquitoes, only one becomes a zombie, and usually, mutated animals hunt zombies too. Then he spots something. With all the cuts on the body, it looked like a zombie cat had been responsible. This was one of the types he hated the most because they had super sharp senses. If that creature was nearby, it probably already sensed him, so he might have walked right into a trap. He concentrated, trying to see if anything was sneaking up on him. That's when he felt something alert him. As soon as he opened his eyes, the cat almost pounced on him. He barely dodged and threw his boomerang sword. Not only was that a mutant creature, but it was also a boss. It had insane agility and could create illusions, cutting damage by 50%. It also had a quick attack and sharp vision. This thing had a long list of skills, and Lindsay figured that meant a solid reward was coming. Even though it was tough, he had a decade of experience dealing with creatures like this. The hack system spotted the zombie cat and assigned him the mission to take it out. The mission was called the Ungrateful Zombie Kitty because the gym had rescued several cats from the city. But when the apocalypse hit and one of them turned, it went on a rampage. Completing this mission would earn him the same experience as taking down 100 level 1 zombies. Then the real system kicked in, and the hack system reactivated the mission, upping the reward. Instead of 100 XP, he'd now get 300, and he had 24 hours to finish it. He found it odd that this system was being so generous. He recalled that in his past life, the system was full of tricks. They always claimed things would be easy, but when he got there, it was an unbeatable creature. At first, a 1% item drop rate didn't seem too bad, but when people started teaming up, everyone realized the rewards fell short. Meanwhile, he was getting really good missions compared to the rest. Of course, he accepted it. He had 24 hours to take down this ungrateful cat, which was just sitting there licking its paw. Knowing this animal specialized in counterattacks, he couldn't just rush in. So he sat down, pulled out his phone, and started reading a manhwa. When he laughed, the cat got angry, jumped up, and lunged at him. At the same time, Lindsay jumped back to avoid the attack. He turned his phone into a katana, and the cat backed off. But then it charged at him again. Once more, he dodged and found a chance to hit its back. But the cat smirked, saying that while he was clever, it already knew his moves. It dodged again, but he managed to slice its claws. The cat immediately said it wouldn't forgive him for that. But he just replied that without claws, it couldn't win. Suddenly, the cat activated an eye ability. He realized he was being pulled into an illusion. Suddenly, he found himself in a different world with a giant cat that had limbs all over its face. But for him, having survived 10 years in an apocalypse, this was nothing. The cat was puzzled that the boy wasn't scared at all. He slashed at its eye, breaking the illusion. In that instant, the creature tried to escape, but of course he wasn't about to let it get away. He threw his boomerang sword, hitting it in the neck, and took down the boss. Right away, he completed the mission, racked up a ton of experience, leveled up, and even snagged an achievement. Everyone in the city was buzzing, trying to figure out who this guy was, with announcements popping up everywhere. The author thinks it's funny that a girl says she wants to marry him, even though she has no idea who this wild guy is. Another person says they'd rather stay anonymous. Meanwhile, someone sipping wine realizes his name likely means he's from Dragon City, and having a pro like him in their group would really boost their survival odds. All this fuss was because everyone learned he took down that beast. He knew that attracting more attention meant he'd have to be even sneakier. Suddenly, he pulled up a chair and sat down. Of course, the lazy guy needed to take a breather after the fight. He was surprised he won without getting too hurt, but he knew he had to be more cautious. For taking out the first boss, he got 1,000 prestige points and 1,000 gold. At that moment, he had a total of 2,000 prestige, 5,000 gold, and 4 attribute points to use. The Bronze Lamy title gave him a boost of 2 in all attributes and reduced the resistance of all other creatures by 5%. But to wear it, he'd have to give up the first kill title. Since it offered more attributes, he decided to switch and wondered how strong he'd be after changing professions. Half an hour went by. The boy was so lazy that he rested a bit before heading to claim the chest. Inside, he found a zombie kitty horn. When blown, it let him summon a zombie cat to assist him for 30 minutes every 48 hours. The best part was that the cat would have 60% of his strength. and everything it killed would count for him. The only downside was that the key wouldn't guarantee a 100% drop rate. But for him, wandering around alone, having a buddy to distract the creatures would be just perfect. He knew he could use the cat's claws, eyes, and skin to craft some good stuff, so he tossed the body into his inventory. Later on, he went to the warehouse, remembering that the silver chest was there. But when he opened it, he was shocked. It was packed with skulls and scattered eyes. It looked like the zombie cat was behind all this. Only in a post-apocalyptic world would you find a creature that collects eyes. Knowing this little guy liked to hoard, he searched for more loot. He noticed a dumbbell stuck on a treadmill and wondered if that was the cat's toy. Other than that, the room was pretty bare. The last thing to check was under the white sheet. Unsurprisingly, there was the silver chest that should have been there. He scored 20 prestige points for finding it, but it would take a minute to open. Why they put a timer on it when they always get it open in time is beyond me. Inside, he found a white cloak and a skill book. The book gave him the double slash ability, causing an explosion that dealt 70% of his stats. The catch was he had to hit both strikes, but he felt confident. He learned the skill right away, and out of the 5 he could equip, Hina had 2. He also got the white wing cloak, which let him glide once every 20 minutes. Look at his inventory getting stacked already. But man, the design is terrible. It looks like a half-plucked chicken. He said the plan was to just take out Lai Hao and leave the rest alone. But why do that when you could send everyone to hell? Yeah, my friend, this kid isn't exactly a hero. Now, all that was left was to finish the mission of taking down 100 creatures. He walked into a room and shut the door. He knocked on the wood, and all the zombies turned to look at him. He activated the chicken cloak effect, eager to give it a shot. He jumped in front of the zombies and took off. He dove in like Michael Phelps, landing hits on their heads. Gaining speed, he glided stylishly to the other side. Dude, this gliding feels more like flying. He's just hanging out up there. Then he decided it was time to test his new skill. He pointed at a zombie and slashed in its direction. 2 zombies went down instantly. And wow, that ability really caused a blast. Even he was shocked by the chaos he created. His glide finally stopped, and he had to land to avoid being thrown off. He was surprised the zombie put up more of a fight than he thought. This ability was as fast as a boomerang, but way more destructive. Now that he wrapped up his tests, it was time to get serious. We saw him racking up gold from a bunch of upgrades. He kept clearing out the whole gym, farming the area. Soon, there were heaps of zombie bodies everywhere, but he started to notice his luck fading as he was just getting resources. He was so lazy that he decided to grab the boxes after everything was done. Even to claim his rewards, he plopped down in a chair. He was about to get a hack and some new gear. He asked for the gear first, saving the best for last. The system announced that a bronze-ranked item was being made. What he got was a blood absorption ring, turning 5% of the damage he dealt into health for himself. He quickly figured out that against low-level creatures, he'd be practically invincible. Man, soon this kid's gonna look like an e-boy with all those rings he's putting on. The funny part is, you can't see any rings on his fingers. He's just rocking that silly chicken cloak. Then he told the system it was time to get the hack and hoped for something good. Of course, it would be the famous hook, but we'll only find out in the next chapter. He was stunned to see the perfect hack for him. It was like an auto-collect hack that grabbed everything the creatures dropped. He realized that from now on, all he had to do was take out enemies, and everything would come to him. For a lazy psycho, this was just what he needed. He worried that people would notice him taking down creatures and always collecting a ton of loot. That's when he asked the system why his hack was still at level 1. The system told him that if he got the same skill later, the level would go up. But he was more excited to try something new next time. He looked at the pile of dead zombies and decided to run a test. As he walked through the bodies, all the loot automatically came to him, and the hack was so good that it even organized his inventory. Perfect for anyone with ADHD. Everything was neat and lined up. That's when he realized he'd been in this spot for too long. He needed to get to the Lee family's village and start his revenge. The scene switched to the Lai mansion. Lai Ho was chilling on the couch, totally relaxed, while everyone else was struggling in the apocalypse. But then, he checked the time. He jumped up and slapped the first person he saw, demanding to know where those 2 idiots were and why they hadn't shown up. The butler explained that the guards sent to him had run into a horde at the university and were running late. Lai Ho was furious at those damn zombies for messing up his plans, especially since he killed one and didn't get any XP. He told his bodyguards to leave some zombies almost dead so he could finish them off, but he was confused about why he got so little XP. That's when they heard a noise nearby. Someone had arrived at the door. Shout out to the forgetful artist who suddenly changed the kid's hair from blue to blonde after 30 chapters. He asked Rong, who was standing in front of him, if she had found that girl and the orphan. Rong replied that they found the girl, but the boy had already vanished. The blonde told her to bring the girl in because he wanted to scold her for hiding. But Rong dropped the suitcase and said the girl was already dead and that she was inside. The blonde's expression changed instantly to horror. Rong explained that they found her body in the warehouse behind the school, and next to it was a man's bloody clothing. She also mentioned that it looked like she had been tortured in all the worst ways before she died. Rong was about to share more details when Lai Ho dashed off asking for a bucket. Rong then mentioned that whoever did this must have really hated the girl, and he warned that they might go after Lai Hao too. Lai Hao brushed it off, saying it was probably because she was the most attractive girl on campus. Then he recalled that the person who likely despised her the most was Lin Zhe. But there was no way Lin Zhe could be that powerful, being an orphan with no support. They hadn't revealed the big surprise yet, so Lin Zhe couldn't possibly know she had been betraying him. Rong asked if Lin Zhe was the son of Lin Zhan. Lai Hao confirmed, and Rong said that regardless of his strength, Lin Zhe had someone really skilled backing him. The 100 bodyguards they brought might not be enough. Lai Hao questioned how that was possible since Rong was one of the top 10 strongest in Dragon City. He ordered Rong to either get back to training or bring in more bodyguards, whatever it took to keep him safe. Rong assured him not to worry, saying he'd put his life on the line to protect him. Rong said he was ready to die for this kid. Clearly, he wasn't too keen on living. Meanwhile, in the forest, zombies were dropping left and right. Our boy had already hit level 8. He was amazed at how fast he was leveling up without even stepping into a dungeon. And now he stood in front of Lai Ho's mansion, ready to settle the score with that jerk. The mansion was crawling with guards. Our boy was cleverly hidden up in a tree. He climbed down, crossed the lawn, and hit his secret lever. With that, a hidden passage opened up. Even with all the guards around, they didn't stand a chance against someone who knew the place inside out. As he got closer to the house, he kept himself hidden. He quickly recognized the group as part of the mercenary guild. In his past life, this was the group Lai Hao trusted the most, and also the one he hated the most. It was unfortunate that he had been keeping an eye on this family for a long time. So far, the troops seemed well organized and he hadn't spotted any weaknesses. But then something caught his eye. He recognized that man as the notorious Rong Zhang. In his past life, this guy became a war god and was always the leader of the mercenaries. Eventually, Lai Hao told this guy to track him down. More than once, he found himself cornered. Rong was definitely one of his toughest foes. But he had managed to escape so many times that he earned the nickname, the Disgraced. It felt like fate that they crossed paths again. In that moment, Rong felt something was off. He turned around, and our guy barely managed to hide. It was risky, but it would be perfect if someone so vital to this family was taken out early. He put on a mask that concealed his presence, and right then, the guards walked right past him. I knew that thing helped him stay hidden, but wow, he was right there, and no one noticed. Our guy was eager not to let this chance slip away, but Rong stayed on high alert, sensing that someone was watching him. He told the others to boost security around the area, thinking he needed to eliminate whoever was close by. Time passed, and it was already midnight. On the couch in the living room, Lai Hao laughed at the idea of someone being out there. He was convinced it was just zombies outside, but Rong insisted they should be careful because he felt they were being targeted. Lai Hao threw his watch on the floor, calling the guy a jerk for taking so long to come and kill him, making him lose sleep. One of the servants suggested they could find something for him to do if he was so bored. The excited one chimed in with an idea and asked Rong if he had captured a zombie today. Rong confirmed he had, bringing it in for analysis, thinking it could help create new weapons against zombies. Lai Hao said there were plenty of zombies outside and wanted to mess with this one. Rong knew it could be risky, but thought it might help calm the boy down a bit. Lai Hao insisted he wouldn't take any chances in this game, plus there were plenty of people in the village. Rong looked at the guy next to him and told him to bring in the captured zombie. A little while later, a muscular zombie was brought in, chained up, with several men struggling to hold it down. Clearly, this one was no ordinary zombie. However, Lai Hao didn't hesitate and ordered them to bring in the big cage. Inside were 6 girls, all staring at each other, trying to figure out what was about to happen. As soon as he rang the bell, they all flinched in fear. The girls went wild, banging on the bars of the cage. It was obvious that Lai Hao had some issues himself. This felt like a world for people with an IQ of 16. He then handed a key to one of the guys, telling him to open the cage because he wanted to have a little fun. The men went in and brought the zombie out. Lai Hao instructed them to put it at the entrance, take off the chains, and toss it into the cell. Suddenly, a guy knelt behind him, pleading for him not to go through with it since it was too harsh. Another guy in a suit apologized for the kneeling man, saying he was new here. Lai Hao stepped up to him and asked if he was trying to give him orders. The man on the ground kept begging for the girls' lives. The guy next to him quickly added that he would never dare to give orders to the young master. Lai Hao grinned, saying it was nice to see someone bold enough to challenge him. Since the guy had the guts to stand up, it was time to see if he was as tough as he looked. He then told a few men to take him down. One of them stepped up to punch the guy in the face, but he easily blocked the first hit. Lai Hao watched with interest, finding it entertaining. Still kneeling, the man twisted the attacker's arm, making him wince in pain. The old man was surprised that this kneeling guy was stronger than the bully. But of course, now he wanted to end the man's life for making him look bad. He called over 2 more men for help. The younger ones wondered why he was bothering with this guy who had already lost his skills. Fists were flying, and soon the poor guy was pinned down. He was taking a beating, with punches landing hard on his face. The guy was basically a punching bag. Still, Li Hao told them not to kill him. Since he wanted to protect the girls, it would be perfect for him to watch them all perish. The terrified girls stood frozen, doing nothing, as the men started to let the zombie loose. Wow, they were really going to throw that beast in there. What a cruel world. The zombie wasted no time and was on the first girl's neck in seconds. The poor guy outside was just crying. He looked like he had given up on life. Lai Ho mocked him, saying if he was so tough, he should just jump in and save the girls. The other soldiers joined in, saying it was a great idea. But even they felt this had gone too far. Even in an apocalypse, lives shouldn't be treated like this. They pulled the boy's body away while the zombie wrecked everything in the cage. Once it was done, they tossed the boy inside. At that moment, the zombie turned and charged at him. The boy paused to apologize to his mom, saying he couldn't protect her or himself today. But suddenly, he found his motivation, saying he wasn't going to die because she was waiting for him at home. He stood up and punched the zombie in the jaw. He wrapped the zombie in a bear hug and dragged it across the cage. He slammed its back against the bars, but it wasn't going to be that simple. The zombie fought back with a crushing grip. Meanwhile, Lai Ho watched, commenting that this was the best show he'd seen. Even though the boy was getting beaten, he got back up and landed another hit on the zombie's face. After a tough fight, he fell to his knees. The zombie was right next to him, but he had no strength left. He apologized, saying he should have listened to her. Meanwhile, Rong watched and said it was a shame the boy had died. One moment, the guards felt sorry for him. The next moment, they complained he had gone down too fast. But if he died quickly, he was about to come back. At that moment, he woke up as a zombie. Outside, Lindsay realized his chance had finally arrived. As soon as he saw someone who looked like him, he finished him off. He put on the clothes and headed for the door. People wondered why Joe was there. He simply said he saw someone sleeping and came to remind him to get back to work. 2 guys came up from behind. One of them said they had been patrolling for over a day without sleep, and our boy said they were being treated like cannon fodder. The round-headed guy wondered if Gia seemed a bit taller than usual. Before they knew it, Lindsay knocked them both out, leaving them face down on the ground. He strolled through the mansion, knowing no one there could handle him. One of them managed to shoot a flare into the sky, but our guy threw a knife and hit it mid-air. It was unfortunate for them, but he knew their moves well. The system announced that security was down and the revenge mission had kicked off. The mission was called Gia's Revenge, and no one was getting out alive after messing with the user. He had to take out all 269 people in that village. Hume got another basic level hack and a bronze item. Our guy jumped at the chance, saying it gave him even more motivation to take out Lai Hao. Then a mission popped up saying a revenge barrier was active. If anyone left, he could track them for a whole month. He got pumped because that meant nobody could escape. But as soon as he accepted the mission, kills started popping up on his screen. He needed to rush and find out what was going on inside the mansion. These guys seemed to forget there was no one left since they had wiped out all the women. That's when a voice rang out, asking why they weren't playing with him. The voice kept going, leaving everyone standing there confused. The red-haired guy realized whoever was talking had a much stronger vibe than him. Lai Hao freaked out, knowing this person had come to finish him. Oh man. Now Lai Hao's hair was back to blue, and Rong's had suddenly turned red. Looks like we might need to start a fundraiser for the poor artist's Alzheimer's meds. Red-haired Rong stood in the middle of the room with his friends, calling for the person to reveal themselves. He was puzzled, wanting to know who this person was that could take everyone out so easily. The voice said he was human but was about to become the reaper of all the souls in that room. The guys were scared, but Rong told them to chill out. They split up, each keeping an eye on a different spot. Then a legendary flashbang dropped right in the middle of the room. It went off, and everything went dark. Meanwhile, our guy strolled in with his hands in his pockets like he was on a catwalk. As soon as he stepped in, he triggered his spike attack. Half the army got impaled right away. The boomerang sliced through, taking down 2 more. Rong had no clue who was in front of them. When he glanced to the side, he spotted another grenade. An explosion went off, but our guy just walked through it like it was nothing. Once the smoke cleared, Rong still couldn't wrap his head around what was going on. But all his allies were already gone. One of the guys said it had to be some kind of witch since he saw a spinning sword taking everyone out. Rong asked how many were left, and the guy said at least 66 brothers, plus a few injured. Meanwhile, Li Ho was fuming, telling Rong to hurry up and get revenge on the one who messed up his plans. Rong ordered them to track this guy down because there was no way he could take out nearly 100 people alone. Then he turned to the servant and told him to take the master to the hideout. The servant realized that this guy was probably watching everything. Our boy was slowly taking everyone out, enjoying their panic. As expected, the men were trying to band together to escape. He checked the system and found out Ron was already at level 5. He heard a bunch of people calling for the coward to show himself and thought it was dumb for them to keep saying that. He decided to summon the kitty for a little extra fun. At that moment, the cat appeared next to him. He pulled out a knife and tossed it into the room, hitting a candle holder, which crashed to the floor and scattered glass everywhere. But before the men could figure out what was going on, the cat was already on the first guy's neck. Our boy used the distraction to slip into the room and take out more of them. Another area was clear, and he pulled back once again. Rong spotted him but quickly realized he couldn't see his name or level. He shouted, asking who he was and what he wanted. Our boy watched Rong, feeling let down. This guy looked nothing like the war god he used to be. He told them he was there to show them what despair really meant. In an instant, he zipped past 3 guys and found himself staring right at Rong. The poor dude was frozen in fear and shaking all over. He fell to his knees, realizing he had no chance. The kid went after him, and our boy said he was heading for Lai Hao. With that revenge barrier, there was no way Rong could hide. He kicked Rong, asking how he could call himself the leader of the mercenaries while acting like this. Rong replied that the whole group was gone, so he wasn't really leading anything anymore. Lindsay smiled, seeing that Rong finally understood he had lost everything he worked for. Rong then asked him to at least tell him who he was so he wouldn't die with that regret. Our boy said he never expected something so good to happen and slowly moved closer. Then he snapped his neck, taking him down. Rong hit the ground, and our boy stepped on his head, reminding him of the day Rong did the same to him and called him an ant. He stomped on him a few times, saying Rong taught him never to talk too much in front of an enemy and always finish them off. It was way better to watch him die full of regrets. Now that Rong was gone, the Li family was really weakened. But it looked like our boy was on a revenge high, stumbling into everything. With that, he left the mansion, leaving a bunch of people ready for the next life. Meanwhile, Hala was in a panic, saying it was impossible for this guy to follow him there. The butler told him not to worry, assuring him that Rong would take care of it. But then suddenly the door caved in, shaped like a body. At that moment, Lai Ho realized that the person he suspected our hero sent to kill him had arrived. The butler told him to calm down, saying he sent the others to the secret base, so no one would think they're there. Lai Ho was furious, wondering how that Dan orphan found such a strong assassin. The butler asked if it could be a secret card left by his father, Lin Jian. However, Lai Ho insisted that it was impossible. After they killed his father, they left nothing for that kid. If it weren't for the boss's insistence, they wouldn't have even left a descendant. Our boy pushed the man away from the metal door and announced for everyone to hear that he now understood everything. Inside, Lai Hao wonders why he can hear Lindsay's voice, and our boy reveals he's been a target since he was born. There's still a lot he doesn't get. From within, Lai Hao shouts that he should have taken that brat out when he had the chance. But our boy wants to know who Lin Jian is and why they're set on wiping out the whole Lin family. Lai Hao laughs, saying it looks like the orphan really doesn't know anything about his dad. Then he admits that Lin Jian, our boy's father, was about to get promoted when he reported him. This messed up all the Li family's plans and business, which is why they ensured the whole Lin family was wiped out. Lai Ho then says it's time for our boy to answer and asks where he found that pro-assassin. But our boy says it doesn't matter since the entire Li family will be gone. Lai Ho laughs, telling him to keep dreaming until our boy kicks the doorknob. With that, the door swings open, showing the little kitten next to him. Poor butler comes rushing in to punch him. Even while being lazy, our boy dodges. The kitten jumps toward him, and guess what? Bam! The butler punches the little guy. The 30 minutes for the kitten are up, and he starts to fade away. At that moment, our boy moves closer, takes off his mask, and says Lindsay has arrived. The old man is shocked, asking if he's the assassin behind all this. And at that moment, Lai Hao realizes he messed up. The butler insists it's impossible for a kid like him to have killed someone. His training is off. Our boy warns the butler that the Lee family's martial arts don't matter in the apocalypse. Lai Ho keeps insisting it's impossible for him to have gotten this strong on his own. Our boy tells him he's about to find out if he's tough enough to take them both down. Then he lunges at the butler, bringing both arms together to block the punch. Wow, he's still holding up. What a guy! Our boy is impressed, saying that not even Wrong could have taken a punch like that. That's when the old man decides to show his true form. He tears off all his clothes, becoming ridiculously muscular. Our guy pulls out his sword and swings at him. The butler calls him a coward for playing dirty, but he just says that in an apocalypse, anything goes. In that moment, he twirls the sword and unleashes a double slash. The butler dodges, but it's a boomerang, and it's coming back around. With that, the butler takes a hit to his arm. The old man can't believe that after 50 years of training, he's about to lose this easily. That's when our guy's explosive combo hits the butler's arm. At the same time, Lindsay moves in closer. Then, bam, he kicks the butler's chin, saying he needs to make sure he's finished. It's a shame he was so strong, but he just couldn't adapt to the apocalypse. This shows it's important to be smart and stay aware of what's happening. That's when he notices Lai Hao has passed out on the floor. He thinks Lai Hao is useless and walks over with his sword. He pokes him a bit to see if the kid wakes up. Of course, he jumps up screaming right away. Our guy asks if he's going to stop pretending to be dead. Man, he gives him quite the beating. That's not exactly nice. Lai Hao starts yelling for help, saying his dad won't let this go, but our guy just keeps spinning his sword. Lai Hao begs him to just finish it quickly. Lindsay tells him not to worry. You won't forget that. Then he pulls out a dull knife that can't cut well and makes the first strike on Lai Hao's thighs. Our guy apologizes, saying that, unfortunately, this apocalypse has terrible weapons, but he promises he'll get it right eventually. And then he swings again. Our guy says it's a shame Lai Hao will never know even 1% of what he went through for 10 years. Confused, Lai Hao asks what he means by 10 years, since he only started messing with our guy 3 years ago and thinking about ending him. Our guy tells him to drop the stories because it's time for some fun. He lashes out here and there, sharing a reason or feeling for each hit based on his past 10 years. He hits him in the chest for the family he never got to know. Then he says he's done with explanations. Now it's just for fun. He digs into his inventory and pulls out a strange item, leaving Lai Hao wondering what he's up to. Our boy points out that this method was actually Lai Hao's idea. Lai Hao, shocked, admits he thought of it but never shared it. Lindsay keeps him in pain for a long time. A few hours later, Lai Hao is completely broken. He says Lai Hao can't die that easily. This is nothing compared to what he used to do. But looking at him now, our boy isn't interested in taking out someone so weak. Still, he gives him a few pokes to check if he's faking it. Eventually, Lai Hao collapses, saying he's finally hit his limit. Our boy walks away and triggers the double explosion slash. The kid even has to step outside to grab an umbrella. Outside, the full moon shines bright, and our boy reflects that the Lee family's life wasn't too bad. Just then, he gets a system alert that he's activated the Vengeful Heart talent, saying it was easy. But it was the toughest thing yet, you jerk. The system explains that skills come from books, but talents activate through experiences. The Vengeful Heart talent boosts his strength, and the more he hates his opponent, the stronger he gets. Our boy is impressed, noting it boosts his strength by 20%, and since it's only a level 1 talent, it might grow even more. For wiping out the Lee family, he'll score a new hack and a bronze-level piece of gear. He opens the chest, eager to see his reward, and in a cute twist, he gets a magical girl's wand. The catch is, it's for the magic class, so you know a girl will be showing up soon for help. He figures it's useless for him right now, so he just stashes it in his inventory to sell later. Checking his list, this auto-loot hack is proving super handy. In the apocalypse, when you take someone out, their inventory vanishes, and you can only grab what's equipped. That's why it was smarter to enslave people instead of killing them. You could collect way more loot over time. One of the items he snagged during all this chaos was a purification necklace. It adds a stat and can remove a negative effect every 12 hours. It's not as strong as the meditation one, but it'll be way more important in a fight, so he decides to put it on. Now, it's time for the real action. He tells the system to show him the new hack he's about to get. Even a loading bar pops up. The ability he gets is total enslavement. It lets him turn a zombie into a slave that will do anything to keep him safe. In the 10 years of his past life, Lindsay can't recall ever seeing anyone with this kind of power. He pinches himself, thinking he must be dreaming. Plus, it hits him that the zombie could be completely loyal. That means he won't have to do as much dirty work anymore. He thought he'd be living alone, but now that he can have someone around who will obey him and even die for him, why would he say no? Plus, It's hard to imagine how powerful this ability could get if it levels up. The system explains that the more zombies he enslaves, the more he can control. He's already picturing himself with an army taking over the city. But he knows that's not realistic right now. The best move is to find a zombie that could become a zombie king later, since those have potential. The tricky part is not knowing if they'll get the same chance to become his slave. But for now, he needs to check out the Lee family vault because he knows they're famous for their treasures. The issue is that when he walks in, it's packed with rich stuff that's worthless now. Oddly, he decides to grab the paintings because he knows they'll be useful. After taking what he thinks is useful and trashing the rest, he leaves, humming a tune. It's nighttime, and the zombies will be more dangerous, so he figures there's no harm in chilling at the fancy villa. However, he doesn't realize that in the room he's entering, there's a zombie just standing there. What's weird is that, theoretically, he killed everyone in that village, but here's this poor zombie that died in agony. The zombie's stats were boosted because it was Meg time, and it had an epic rank talent that would make it stronger as it levels up. Our guy sees the stats and knows it's a perfect target for his new enslavement ability. What's strange is that the zombie is just standing there doing nothing. Linzai even finds it odd and asks the zombie why it's not trying to bite him. But seeing that the zombie has a mind stat of 3, he figures the guy must have been pretty dumb when he was alive. He asks the system if he can really enslave that zombie since it has a lot of stats. The system confirms he can enslave it since it has fewer stats than him. He gets a bit pensive. That mind level is super low, but needing to get stronger fast, he tells the system he wants to enslave that zombie. A prompt pops up and he clicks yes. Suddenly, a red energy starts wrapping around the zombie, but he notices the zombie seems to be fighting it off. He's taken aback as he sees the zombie calmly scratching its head. Then a window shows up, asking him to name the creature. Wow, what a mean guy. Since it's tall and strong, he decides to name it Big Idiot. The system congratulates him for successfully enslaving Big Idiot. Another window pops up with Big Idiot's stats, and wow, it has everything a person would. But the system laments that he can't gain prestige or access an inventory. He then tells Big Idiot to show his strength, thinking the cage won't hold him. Right then, Big Idiot grabs the iron bars and starts making an opening. In no time, he's out and our boy is running toward Linzai. But suddenly he stops, seemingly just messing around, leaving our boy looking silly. Quickly, he starts putting on some leftover gear. What's odd is that now the system says the zombie no longer has night traits. Our boy figures it makes sense since the creature was already too powerful. He then tells Big Idiot he's going to sleep and orders him to guard the door. Another chill night for the lazy one goes by, and he wakes up in his room. When he opens the door, Big Idiot is just standing there watching. Our boy praises him for a job well done, then asks if he wasn't down there munching on the bodies. The creature shakes its head, and our boy realizes it's quite different. With that, he heads to another room and pulls out the usual feast. He starts eating, but then something drops on his back. When he looks, it's Big Idiot drooling, wanting to eat. Our guy's got endless food, so he tells Big Idiot to grab a bite too. In his past life, he doesn't recall zombies being into human food, but he had no other options. He conjures up another feast and asks him to take a seat. He starts to worry about how to store all these food cards, but it looks like he found a fix. Originally, he planned to get revenge at level 5 or 6, but now he's already at level 8 and still can't access the dungeons. Maybe with the map, gear, and Big Idiot's help, he can change his profession and become a shadow of illusion. If that's the case, he needs to head to the Motto Museum and find the profession change scroll. He remembers that the ancestral scrolls are crucial for changing professions. Once you're in the class change area, you have to finish 3 challenges before time runs out, or it's game over. He recalls that in his past life, when he was about to get that item, it was the same day he got videos of Yo Jing doing adult stuff with Lai Hao. He chatted with his friends who came up with a plan to take down Lai Hao, but our guy had no idea they were in on it. He got played and ended up in a profession change space. Their plan was to either kill him or make it look like an accident. But what they didn't see coming was that he actually won that space, got a profession, and ended up with a scar on his face for 10 years. That went down on the 8th day of the apocalypse, and since they were still in a room, there shouldn't be anyone at the Mada Museum yet. Now that Lai Hao is in this world, he knows things will go way smoother this time. Our guy is surprised at how natural his zombie looks, and it seems like he's got a great idea. Outside, he's all geared up. He made Big Idiot look pretty human to avoid drawing attention. The scene shifts to the Motto Museum. A bunch of creatures are coming their way. Noticing several dead zombies, our guy realizes there must be someone else around, so he needs to be careful. With a 100% drop rate, he's definitely the one who has to take them out. Plus, the place is blessed. He takes down 3 creatures and already finds a scroll. That scroll lets him summon a fireball, which he can use to deal some damage. He thinks that's pretty good. When he looks back, he sees some zombies hanging out with Big Idiot. He hides and changes his strategy. Since Big Idiot isn't a target for anyone, he can just let him roam around, opening chests until he spots that strange person. This way, he can steer clear of any trouble and stay hidden. The only downside here is the crazy number of zombies, and even the two of them might not be enough to take them all on. Meanwhile, over in another part of the city, some guys are hanging out on a balcony talking about needing to head to the museum to grab the scrolls. The catch is they don't have enough people to cover the whole area. Our guy is just watching and even reading their lips, thinking that if he could get in on this plan, it would save him a ton of hassle. The scene shifts to a shopping mall. A guy is giving a speech saying that a decision has been made. His name is Godong, and he mentions they're waiting for 200 armed folks before kicking off the mission. But some people step up, saying they can't wait that long since they already have enough strength. Everyone's starting to get hungry, and they need to hunt zombies for new gear. Out of nowhere, one of the rebels gets slapped. A redhead tells him to shut it and stop stirring up trouble. But the guy who got slapped tells Ming Jing to quit acting all high and mighty just because she has a bronze-level item. Weirdly, he tells her it's better to follow his plans and submit. She just asks if he really thinks he's good enough for her. The guy calls her dumb and says that sooner or later he'll take her down and do whatever he wants. She tells him to look in a mirror first and see if that's even possible. His friends just laugh at him, and he warns them not to blame him later. While they're bickering, Gao comes down and tells them to cut it out and listen. That's when someone knocks on the door. It's our boy and Big Idiot. He seems to recognize someone when the door opens. It's the guy named Godong, and he remembers seeing him when he was activating the scrolls earlier. At that moment, a girl asks who he is and why he's there. Our boy just walks up calmly. Godong asks for his name and why he's at the Reapers Club, especially since he can't find any info on our boy. Oddly enough, the guy next to him is called Big Idiot, and he's level 4. Lindsay simply says he saw a lot of people there and wanted to know if he could join. Godong smiles and says, of course, introducing himself as the club president. Our boy shakes his hand and lies, saying his name is Lin Lu. He introduces Big Idiot, saying he's unfortunately mute and always works as a bodyguard. Our boy thinks Godong is pretty clueless and easy to trick. He turns to Big Idiot and tells him they're now in the group. He didn't think it would be this easy to blend in. In the room, Godong asks what they like to do since they're new. Lindsay says he loves taking out zombies and getting stronger, which is why he wanted to join a bigger crew. Godong, excited, mentions he has some skill books to share. Our boy feels a bit puzzled by how generous Godong is. He says it's not needed, but Godong insists they're friends now. He puts a book on the table and our boy is surprised to see it's actually a good one. It's a Berserker skill book. This skill turns you into a Berserker, boosting your stats by 50% for 2 minutes. He realizes that losing control for that long is just like being a zombie in this world. Plus, a person is usually stronger when they can think clearly. Godong admits the side effects are pretty rough, but in a pinch, it could save your life. Still, he thinks he'd never use something that risky, but it's different when it's for someone else. Our boy closes the book, feeling Godong's sincerity, and thanks him genuinely. He asks if there's anything else since he and Big Eddie want to get back to taking out creatures. But Godong seems to notice something in our boy's smile and asks him to hang on. Our boy asks what's up and Godong says he has another gift. He pulls out a card for a KFC meal and asks why they can't eat together. Even though Godong already gave him a skill which wasn't the greatest, he didn't want our boy to dislike him. Lindsay says it's all good. He and Big Idiot still need to take out a ton of zombies to level up. The guy thinks our boy hates him, but really, he liked the book and was even hesitant to take more. But the guy grabs his hand and puts the card in it, saying he can use it when he gets hungry. Not wanting to reveal he has plenty of food, he just thanks him. With that, he heads out, and Godong tells him to come talk if he ever needs anything. As our boy walks away, he thinks Godong isn't so bad since he liked that terrible skill book. Little does he know how ruthless our plucked chicken really is. Suddenly, a guy with a cigarette steps in front of him, warning him not to get too close to Godong. He kept going even before the guy could finish. Big Idiot just yanked the guy's hand off his shoulder. Our boy asks Big Idiot why he's taking so long. The guy laughs and wonders if he really thinks being big makes him strong. But the zombie stomps down hard and gives the fool his first beating. Just like that, one of them is already sent to the afterlife. Our boy then asks if anyone else has something to say. Clearly, the others drop their weapons and say no, nothing. When they see their boss running away, one of them says it's over now that another person has joined Godong's side, especially since he just took out one of the competitors. Of course, Gaodong hears about it right away. He's shocked that our boy killed someone right after leaving the room. The red-haired guy thinks it's probably him since there was a guy next to him called Big Idiot. Gaodong smiles, saying the boy did him a huge favor. Seeing that he took out Jia Tai, Gaodong realizes the boy wants to help and thinks he'll be a great addition to the group. He tells them to bury Jia Tai and share his gear with everyone. Gaodong walks away, thinking today's the perfect day. He thought our boy would be out hunting zombies, but instead, he's just sitting in a small room reading a book. Our boy asks the system if there's a chance Big Idiot might attack him in berserker mode. The system says no, since Big Idiot's loyalty goes beyond his awareness. Our boy realizes this is a great addition. He can control this guy's actions, so even if he goes berserk, he can still guide him somehow. He hands the book to Big Etyat and tells him to learn it well. Big Etyat just burps in his face in response. Our boy watches and finally sees that Big Etyat has learned it. This new ally is proving to be way more beneficial than he thought. He gets up, saying it's time to go because there's a lot to collect at the Motto Museum. The scene shifts as he approaches and enters a room. At the back, there's a door marked Game Store. He walks over, touches the doorknob, and the system welcomes him, wishing him a good experience. As he steps into the room, a bunch of windows pop up in front of him. They show options for weapons, accessories, masks, and more. He's got 6,000 coins and knows that usually 2,000 is enough to grab a decent bronze rank gear. Right now, he's looking for pants, gloves, and a chest piece. But while he's casually shopping, a hand suddenly reaches out from one of the windows towards him. He dodges just in time, realizing how close he was to getting hit. He doesn't recall anything like this before, so it looks like there's a zombie stuck in the system. Suddenly, the creature starts to come out of the window. This feels weird since he's visited this store countless times before, and nothing like this ever happened. The zombie gets closer and slaps him right across the face. He then tells the system to collect, curious about what a bugged-out zombie might drop. When he opens the box, he finds a roll of toilet paper. Looks like he just spent 6,000 gold on who knows what since his coins are gone, leaving him shocked. Next thing he knows, he's in a warehouse packed with resources. He grabs something and says he's going to check on what Big Idiot is up to outside. Big Idiot is out there handling anyone who gets too close. Our boy starts wandering around, picking up different items. He also gets a sword ring, and the system congratulates him, saying it can be fused with his current sword. One of the items is a scarecrow that draws in nearby creatures. Another is a boxing glove that gives a 5% chance for his attacks to hit harder. Plus, there's a longsword that boosts his strength by 3 points. He puts on the glove, and the system asks if he wants to fuse the two swords. He knows that with the fusion feature, it's pretty unlikely to end up worse off. The catch is that his hack only impacts item drops, nothing else. Still, he decides to fuse them because the creatures are getting tougher, and he needs better weapons. He confirms, and the two items start fusing. The system tells him to wait 30 minutes. While he waits, he enjoys his usual feast. Not surprisingly, he ends up with an even better weapon. It's a decapitation sword that boosts his attack speed every time he takes down an enemy. He remarks on his luck, but of course no one is shocked, right? He tells Big Idiot it's time to hit the bookstore. He sends Big Idiot in first to draw the creatures while he sneaks up from behind, taking them out with his spinning sword. This gets him to level 9, and now he needs 1,000 XP to hit level 10. He calls Big Idiot over and says they're clearing the rooftop now. Half an hour later, he gathers the creatures there and tells Big Idiot to turn on berserker mode. Right away, the big guy starts revving up and his shirt bursts open. Our boy tells him to charge in and take out everything. So, poor Big Idiot charges in solo while our boy relaxes, sipping tea. He watches, realizing this berserker mode is even more powerful than he expected. Mixing the creature's natural skills with berserker mode basically doubles his stats. It's a perfect match for a creature that thrives on raw power. After that, Big Idiot goes into cooldown. The berserker effect wears off and he collapses, totally wiped out. He enters recovery mode, allowing him to eat 30% faster. Our boy pours a potion down his throat and walks around while the auto-lube gathers everything nearby. One item is a silver chest piece that creates a shield when he gets hit, and another is a potion that boosts energy recovery for a few minutes. Then he uses a scroll to power up the blood ring. The item levels up, giving him more strength, physical power, and a better ability to absorb energy. He keeps this up, taking down creatures, collecting loot, and leveling up. He checks his stats and sees he's ready to move to a new area. He walks up to a door, opens it, and finds a totally wrecked room. He figures this must be the workout boss. He has no clue what the monster is since it was already defeated in his previous life. But as he turns, he spots the city's shopping mall. He opens the door, and the system congratulates him, giving him 10 prestige points. He's told he can't stay there for more than 30 minutes a day. Then, he gets a warm welcome for being the first to enter and is offered a 50% discount. He tells Big Idiot to watch things outside like usual while he checks out the store. The shop welcomes him, and he starts browsing the products. The store warns him not to start any fights, and he's lucky Big Idiot is keeping watch outside. He checks out the stuff, but nothing catches his eye. He's got way too much gear, with over 100 of each item. He decides to close the system since there's nothing useful for him here. The store hints that since he looks unhappy, they'll show him pricier items. The system welcomes him as a valued member of the city. The shop features an honor badge, a uniform, and a guardian's mark. With 6,000 in hand, he opts to use the 50% discount for being the first customer. The uniform seems like the best choice, so he buys it right away. Since he's nearly broke, he tells the system he's finished shopping. The uniform has a cool illusion feature that hides his other gear. Plus, it cleans itself, regulates temperature, and handles other body functions. Also, anyone who attacks him will lose 10% of their stats for 5 minutes. On top of that, the uniform lets him create missions for others to take on. But not for him, of course. He puts everything on, wears the uniform, and turns on the illusion. Now, his armor is concealed under the uniform. The system then reminds him to leave since he's overstayed his 30 minutes. He grabs Big Idiot and heads out. Once outside, he tells Big Idiot to accept the mission to take out everyone. The system clearly states that the mission doesn't make sense. He then tells Big Idiot to take down the legendary rank boss, but the system rejects that mission too. He turns and asks if it's possible to kill the bookstore boss. The mission goes through, and he jumps at the chance to accept it. It looks like Big Idiot counts as a player, so he can use this mission feature. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a couple is hiding out in a room. The girl wonders if they'll get caught, and the guy reassures her they won't. But right next to them, a red eye is keeping watch. The poor girl screams. The guy hugs her tightly, telling her to keep it down. But ma'am, there's a terrifying red demon, and I think we're in trouble. The guy gets licked on the face while he holds her. He bolts, telling Xiaomi they have to make it. He can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. But then, she gets licked on the leg and yanked away, and wow, there wasn't even a moment to save her before she's gone. I thought he'd just run off and leave her, but he turns back to fight. Of course, time moves on. Our guy and Big Idea walk into the room. The couple is still being eaten by the red demon. Our guy sees this and says that for weak folks, dying in the apocalypse is a sort of freedom, and they'd just suffer otherwise. At least their screams help him track down the creature. The system warns that it's a zombie that changed its class, just like a human. Bosses level up their class way faster than regular zombies. Usually, creatures like this can munch on human brains to get smarter. In front of him is a tracker, a bronze-ranked boss. The creature has a ton of stats, level 10, and a bunch of skills. The creature looks at him, confused. It starts pacing around, lying down as it watches. Then the system warns that the zombie has been spotted and a mission starts. The tracker is not happy. Looks like this guy was an admin who suffered in the library, and after turning into a zombie, he decided to take out everyone who reads. To figure out how the creature fights, our guy sends Big Idiot first. Big Idiot moves in for an overhead swing. But just as the hit is about to connect, the creature starts to vanish. It turns into a shadow and pops up on the other side of the room behind him. It lunges for his blind spot to strike at his neck. But Lindsay takes advantage of the distraction and slashes at the creature's hand. He sneaks up from behind and says it's too easy. But just as he goes for the slash, the creature grows 2 more arms and blocks the attack. Then our guy activates his slash and chops off 2 more arms. The little creature bolts away, yelling for help in zombie speak. Our guy remarks that this is way too easy. He counted to 3 and activated his pursuit boots. Once he got close enough, he hurled his boomerang sword. When it connected, he triggered the explosive slash, taking out the creature instantly. He earned some experience and a bronze piece of gear. The catch is he'll be stuck at level 10 until he switches his profession. As if having enough power wasn't already a perk, the system gives him a new hack for hitting level 10. He wonders what it could be, and the system quickly reveals the yin-yang talent, letting him have 2 professions. He smiles, thinking this might help him take over the whole world. He realizes this hack is pretty unfair to the other players. Hearing some zombies coming, he closes his eyes and activates his spear, taking out all the monsters. He grabs his staff and tells Big Idiot they need to head to the upper floor. He opens the stairs, spots a few zombies, and tells Big Idiot to handle them. The profession he wants, Shadow Phantom, boosts his strength and agility, so getting another one that improves his physical and mental stats would be perfect. The problem is, he knows Dragon City doesn't have any of those super professions. He checks the items he got and hands Big Idiot a green hammer. Then he opens the silver staff and gets a pair of war pants. These cut negative effects by 20%, and he puts them on right away. He tells Azami to gather the bodies of the creatures his spear took out since he has other stuff to handle. He realizes that since the beginner period isn't over yet, he can't change his profession. So he decides it's time to check in with the folks in the auditorium. Outside, a bunch of zombies are hanging around the door. It looks like the artist ran out of meds and started changing the hair color of the guys, probably Go Dong. Our boy asks if they can storm the museum. Go Dong replies that if our boy brings the 200 members, it's doable. He's pumped, knowing that if this plan works, no one will want to compete with him for the president's spot. Gao Dong then gives a big speech, rallying all the players and announcing they'd face a huge battle today. They would mobilize the entire group to wipe out all the zombies inside the museum. Everyone was eager to score new gear and level up. Lindsay realizes these people have no clue how much things will change when the beginner period wraps up. Suddenly, the crowd starts arguing, with everyone wanting someone else's gear. They spot the huge crowd of zombies outside the museum again. Gao asks if our guy is really confident this plan will work. Our guy nods. He believes that if everyone moves quickly, nobody will get hurt or die. He puts a hand on Gao Dong's shoulder, urging him to take this chance since opportunities like this don't come often. Gao Dong agrees and promises to give it his all. The group signals they're all set. Our guy claims he's the fastest and will draw in the first wave of zombies. He leaves Big Eddie behind to assist Gao Dong, who expresses his gratitude. Now, it's time to set the plan in motion and finally change that profession. He takes off running while the group wishes him luck. As he sprints, he waves some zombie meat to lure all the zombies towards him. The group seizes the moment to slip by unnoticed. He hands the meat to another guy, telling him to keep moving while he deals with the zombies. This mission was crucial, and they stood to gain big rewards. The guy is so touched he's nearly in tears. Clearly, Lin can't waste time attracting zombies since he needs to level up, so he charges in, taking down a bunch of the creatures. Soon, he gets to a room. He knows this is where the class change scroll is stored. In his past life, many risked everything just to get their hands on it, but this time, it's going to be his. He punches the glass, but nothing happens. He unleashes a series of JoJo-style punches, and finally, it starts to crack. After using a lot of energy, the glass breaks. He finds a mysterious scroll and earns 500 prestige points. The system then asks if he wants to accept the scroll's summoning. He agrees, places his hand on it, and is instantly transported. He ends up in a different place surrounded by flames. He walks up to a wall and steps through a portal, activating the approval for the class change. He'll have to complete 3 challenges, and here, all his abilities are disabled. Time worked differently here, and dying meant total destruction. But he had a trick up his sleeve and triggered the Ancient Ancestors test. Not only would he get a new class, but he'd also score a new hack and a treasure chest, just like before. It seemed he was being offered a class from ages ago. He knew the Phantom Assassin class was pretty recent, so this other one sounded way more intriguing. He asked the system what was happening, but it didn't reply, and vanished. With no other option, he accepted the mission, and just like that, the first challenge kicked off. The system instructed him to touch the orb. As soon as he did, the energy inside shifted, and a red glow started to rise. Out of nowhere, he felt a weird energy take over him. The next thing he knew, he opened his eyes to find himself in a desolate place. He crouched down and touched the liquid, which looked like a sea of blood. He began walking through it when a tornado formed above him. In his previous life, this test took him ages to pass, and he only made it through fueled by anger over his ex. But now, he was a different person. The tornado spun above him, lifting everything into the air. The blood started to rise, but he stayed steady. His face was already drenched in blood, but he held his ground as time went on. This was a test of surviving emotions like fear and hatred, and he passed it easily. A voice from above said that was enough and told him he could go back. When he returned to the cave, the system told him to move on to the second test. A portal for the second trial opened up. He stepped through and found himself walking in what felt like space. As he walked, a voice urged him to give up, saying that if he fainted, he'd move to the next phase. His body felt the weight of the surroundings. The further he went, the better the class and stats he would earn. Remembering everything from his past life and the challenges he faced, he knew he couldn't quit now. He tightened his fists and kept moving. Suddenly, a golden light shone behind him. When he turned around, it felt like he had found the way out. It really seemed like he had reached the finish line in his life. For the first time, the kid was in tears, realizing he had actually accomplished something. He was praised for passing the second test, and now it was on to the final one. Naturally, the last test was the toughest. But without a second thought, he stepped into the portal and found himself in a cave. The system told him he needed to defeat the Guardian. He readied the sword he had gotten earlier and waited. Before long, he noticed a strange shift in the air at the cave's corner. Suddenly, a small black kitten leaped out. Mana expected a huge boss, but it turned out to be just a tiny kitten. He felt let down, thinking he had waited so long for this. In the past, this had caused him a lot of trouble and pain. But this time, with all his skills, it wouldn't be as hard. He shut his eyes, sensing something coming closer. At that moment, the energy shifted and seemed to come from above. But he was prepared, and with a quick slash, he struck the kitten. He was now returning the pain that this cursed creature had caused him before. Did I get that scar from another creature? Or am I just losing it with this Alzheimer's again? In any case, the kitten fell lifeless. Our boy had finally completed the third test. The scroll for the Phantom Assassin class appeared. What was odd was that he was still in the same room. He wasn't sure if this was a bonus or if he was stuck because of his hack. He started looking around, wondering if this was the system's doing. That's when he realized he hadn't yet tapped into the true power of the scroll. He decided to start the activation to see if anything else would happen. He asked the system where he was headed next, but it didn't reply. He figured that somehow, the scroll was messing with his hack. He kept searching the room and eventually found a weird crack in the cave. When he touched it, a golden glow appeared, and suddenly, he saw an ox and a phoenix. The same symbols from the scroll showed up. The image stuck to the wall, and the ground started shifting. The odd image transformed into a small door. He walked over and opened it. In the back, he spotted an orb and another scroll. He opened the scroll and saw the name Xiaoyu. This scroll seemed like the final test from a long-gone emperor. It said he needed to place his hand on the painting. As soon as he touched it, the system told him he discovered an unknown lineage. After checking the energy, it started to change his class. The system announced the test was complete, and he would become a soldier lord. He was excited because he could keep his old skills and gain new ones. He picked up the orb, and it began merging with his hand. The system said the orb could change shape and absorb energy from other items to get stronger. He was blown away by the idea of having something that could grow endlessly. Then the orb jumped to his forehead. After a headache and waking up, he decided to wrap up the test since he had been in the cave too long. When he stepped outside, he found a bunch of dead zombies around him. He saw the scroll in front of him, and the system told him he was still getting the Soldier Lord class. Now, instead of 1 attribute point, he gained 3 in strength, 3 in physical, and 3 in other stats. With all those stats, he knew he could easily take on a horde. As the first to get a profession, he earned the Pioneer's achievement. He checked out the profession, which had no big surprises except for a mysterious third skill. He grabbed his staff and figured it was time to test the orb's power. He tossed an item at the orb and told it to devour it. The orb lit up, and the item disappeared. After absorbing something powerful, the orb leveled up to silver rank. He then started testing its abilities by creating a flame in his hand. Once he got off work, he turned the orb into a sword, deciding to stick with that for now. With the sword form, he unlocked 2 new abilities. He then asked the orb to shift into a bow. Instantly, it melted away and reshaped itself. His skills changed along with the orb. He began having fun switching it into different weapons to explore the magic each one offered. Eventually, he ran out of mental energy and couldn't change its form anymore. He decided it was time to take a break. The whole server got the news that he hit level 10 and changed his profession. Everyone grinding hard recognized this guy's name again. Even the most hardcore players hadn't reached level 7 yet. Lin Z then grabbed some energy recovery items and downed a potion. The Pioneer title gave him 1,000 prestige points, some coins, and extra stats. It also lowered the stats of any opponent facing him by 5%. Feeling drained, he told the system to open the silver-ranked equipment box. Inside, he found a mask of evil phantom that hides his info from players not 5 levels above him. It also had an evil gaze ability that instills fear for 3 seconds. He put on the mask and activated its phantom effect. All that was left was to check the hack he would get. Now that he had his first profession and passed level 11, he could wear another ring. Unfortunately, he had already fused all his rings, so he'd need to find another one. For now, he had 2 extra attribute points, which he used right away. The night went by, and he set out for another hunt the next day. Outside, everyone was celebrating after clearing the museum. Gov Dawn, along with Big Ediat, stepped up to make an announcement. He congratulated everyone on the mission's success and introduced the person who contributed the most, Big Ediat in our boys' gear. At that moment, Lindsay appeared wearing his demonic mask. Gobdong said it was great to see him since he was worried something might have happened. For the first time, we spot a girl who seems a bit smitten with Lin Z, aside from that one who vanished after a couple of chapters. Gobdam announces they took down over 1,500 zombies, with Big Idiot personally taking out more than 100. Later, Gobdam brings Lin Z to the warehouse and shows him a stack of loot boxes, claiming they're all from the mission. He thanks Lin Z again and suggests they chat more later, reminding him that the more allies he has, the more power he can gain. With the crew they had, he could do whatever he wanted. Lin Z thinks that if he gathers more people, he could score better gear and maybe level up to diamond rank faster. Plus, with all the resources he had, sharing food wouldn't be an issue. He could even sell what he didn't need to others for coins. So he tells Gao Dan they should talk about a trade. But Gao Dan puts a hand on his shoulder, saying Lin Z is the key to their success and can ask for anything he wants. Our guy doesn't hold back and says he wants gear. Gao Dong, already expecting this, says he knows how tough it is to find such stuff. He tells Lin Z to hold out his hand because he has a surprise. He places a ring in Lin Z's palm, saying it's the best find from the mission. Gao Dong assures him that if he ever needs anything in the future, he just has to ask. Gao Dong is excited about this gift, thinking it'll keep Lin Z close. Lin Z then says he wants to meet everyone at 07 Ausschauer to talk about the end of the beginner period. But really, his plan is to trap them all in the warehouse so they can't escape when the period ends, making sure they all die. This is his twisted way of thanking them for being nice and giving him the ring. But Gao Dong reassures him that they're no longer beginners, so they won't die. Gao Dong thanks him again and promises to let everyone know, asking how to handle the trades. Lin Z tells him he'll explain everything when the time comes, deciding not to push the issue since they don't seem interested in hearing him out right now. With that, he leaves, and Gao Dong mentions they don't need any resource letters, but Lin Z knew something was going to happen. Later, Lin Z is in his room, messing with the orb and creating different items. After feeding it all the gear he had, the orb finally levels up to gold rank. He was surprised since he thought he wouldn't get anything of that rank until around level 30. On top of that, the gold-ranked item has doubled the stats and causes bleeding damage. He looks out the window where a horde of zombies is gathered and says they've shown up just in time. He freezes his dagger, which dissolves in the air, slicing through everything. He calls out to Big Idiot, telling him it's time to get to work. That night, they kept taking out tons of zombies, stacking up the bodies. Out of the blue, Lin Z hit level 15. He was really making the most of his beginner time, but it was almost over. He calls Big Eddie and says it's time to head back. What's weird is that even after taking down so many zombies, the crowd didn't seem to thin out. He rushes to a hotel and slams the doors shut. Finally, CO7 rolls around. The sky turns red, marking the end of the beginner phase. And just like that, the real apocalypse game kicked off. Before, it felt fair and balanced, but now it was the real deal. The zombies got stronger, their senses sharpened, and they evolved way faster. Plus, many zombies now had classes and special skills. Just like humans, they started organizing and launching big attacks on player bases. At night, the zombies became even tougher, while players got weaker. All materials got tougher, and the only food left was from the game since the regular food was rotting away. The weather changed, and zombies began dropping better loot. New jobs, a national ranking system, and dungeons were added. Also, new updates would come as certain conditions were met. Life was already tough, but it was impossible before. He got a message wishing him luck in staying alive. As he looked outside, the creatures were already mutating. The world had truly turned into a survival of the fittest. With tainted water and food rotting fast, everyone had to hunt. The only way to get food was by taking down zombies, but of course, it wouldn't be that simple. In all this chaos, he calls Big Idiot and gets a shock. Big Idiot was mutating too. His clothes ripped apart and electricity started crackling from him. The issue was he was losing his grip, and our guy asked what was going on. The Satem explained it was a clash between his ability's authority and the mutation process. His body wouldn't change, but he'd get a 50% boost in stats and might even alter his perfection. Our guy was pumped to give his zombie a legendary job. Big Idiot got a legendary power boost that upped his status gains. At the same time, our guy was flooded with congrats for hitting new ranks. The system asked if he wanted to share it with everyone or keep it private. Loving the spotlight, our guy decided to share the news. When he checked, he saw that Big Eddie was sitting at rank 3. The catch with being ranked was that all his info, including gear, was out in the open. He started to wonder if showing everything was the smartest move. In the past, this would have worried him since the Lee family was after him, but they were gone now. So he figured he'd stay open, especially with the mask on, so no one would know he was really Jia Yi. Plus, Being rank 1 came with a ton of extra rewards, perfect for building a big base. With the best reputation and gear, he snagged the title of Unmatched in the world. He could keep this title only as long as he stayed at the top. If he dropped in rank, the title would vanish. With this title, he got an extra 10% boost in stats and a 10% discount at shops. He was stoked because those extra stats would help him hold on to his rank. It also bumped his item drop rate by 1%. But since he already had a 100% drop rate, he was a bit puzzled. A system explained that with the 100, he'd now get double the items. Honestly, I'm not sure how many more ranks this kid can hit or if he even needs anything else. He calls out to Big Eddie, saying it's time to test things out. But as soon as he opens the door, a zombie charges at him. He tries to slash it, but the zombie backs off. Reaching out, he uses his heart to take down the first enemy. He almost got caught because that zombie had stealth. As he walked through the city, he spotted a group of zombies tossing poison around. He hated dealing with these guys and told Big Idiot to start running. Those zombies weren't strong, but getting close enough to finish them off would be a pain. He saw something and told Big Idiot to follow. He went into a house, shut the door, and trapped a zombie at the entrance. He climbed out the window and slipped away. Meanwhile, back at the base, everyone was getting eaten. He walked in and saw everyone in bad shape, wondering why they put in so much effort only to end up like this. They were about to run out of supplies and face doom. A girl suggested they should just eat whatever was left since it was almost over. But for Lindsay, this was the moment he'd been waiting for. He started walking around, announcing he was there to help everyone survive and bring some hope. He offered food, gear, and anything else they needed at low prices. Immediately, everyone who couldn't fight zombies rushed in, eager for supplies. He began bargaining and quickly racked up over 10,000 coins. Everyone who bought from him left satisfied, knowing this was their best shot at survival. He then said he was going to sleep and warned them to keep quiet or they'd be in trouble. Go Dong, with his freshly dyed hair, had been quietly watching from the sidelines. Finally, Lindsay showed up and asked how things were going. Go Dong said that from now on, Lindsay could run the whole place and everyone would listen to him. Lindsay leaned in and whispered something to Gao Dong. Gao Dong nodded, saying he got it and would follow through. With that, he took off running. Our boy hoped it would all work out, but even if it didn't, he had nothing to lose. He went to his room, excited for the next day. With the new mutated zombies around, he could get way better gear and items. Plus, he planned to have everyone from the base help him gather resources. In the next scene, he and Big Idiot were already outside. Soon enough, a horde of zombies came at them. But just a moment later, they were all on the ground, defeated. Our boy said they should clear everything out so the players could start exploring a bit. He cleared out all the zombies from a building that had a shop. It was the perfect spot to set up a base since he could negotiate and buy stuff right there. As long as no one knew about the shop, it wouldn't be attacked. But when he opened the door, he found a bald guy inside. Another guy stepped up and asked who he was, warning that his crew had already claimed this spot. But the bald dude told him to hush because Big Idiot was right there. The dude in the back was the second strongest in China, so they needed to watch out. Even Lin didn't realize they'd leveled up and moved into second place. The guys stretched out their arms and welcomed him, saying he could do whatever he liked there. Big Idiot wanted to take them out, but Lindsay's calmer side told him to chill since they were just there to shop. With that, they walked into the store, and the guys didn't say anything else. The bald guy noted that the two looked strong, but they had way more numbers and could probably take them. But the captain warned that thinking that way was dumb. Lindsay had probably taken out more zombies than they had people, so it wasn't worth the risk. Inside the store, our boy wanted to grab the city's Medal of Honor. Once he got it, he smiled and remembered that the last chapter ended just as Lindsay was about to get the city's honor mark. He knew they had to grab that item before anyone else did. He snagged it for 9,000 gold coins, leaving him with 7,300. As soon as it went into his inventory, he activated it right away. The first effect of the mark let him strengthen gear that was breaking. The second effect weakened anyone who fought him in the city of Mu. Plus, as long as he was in Mu, he could summon a robot with the same stats as him, but it would only last 10 minutes. The system warned that this was a unique item and could only be bought once. Sneaky Lindsay was already plotting to buy 10 and summon a bunch of robots just like him. On the flip side, the item's description said the stats were based on his own, but it didn't say the exact ratio. With that, he left the area and headed outside the city. In an open space, there was some kind of tube with swords and weapons drawn on it. A blue light appeared, and a guy on a wall said the zombies should be cleared out so it was safe. A blonde guy pointed at the ball and said this was where the job change method was announced. His friend thought maybe they should look around for weapons and supplies first. But like a classic dumb side character, she went ahead and touched the ball without knowing what it was. The red-haired friend told her not to, but it was too late. She was already surrounded by a dark aura. A blue light began to rise. Everyone protected the purple one, and they all seemed to be in a barrier. The whole area was filled with smoke. The blonde guy asked why she always pulled stunts like this. The girl, looking pretty rough, said she had no clue and apologized, but now she probably just got everyone killed. One of them pulled out a flashlight from who knows where and suggested they stop bickering and find a way out. But the blonde told him to check behind him, and sure enough, a huge zombie had already swung a hammer. It was a level 18 bronze boss, and they couldn't even gauge its power. The guy was already gone, leaving everyone with shocked expressions. The monster grinned, charged at them, and soon, all that was left on the ground were arms. The creature approached the barrier and struck it, but nothing happened. It roared in frustration, and finally, it seemed like that test was over, and the barrier dropped. As the smoke cleared, it was free to roam the city. At that moment, someone nearby mentioned that this was what happened when you were careless. He turned to the two behind him and said, "This was why you shouldn't talk to anyone or touch anything." Meanwhile, someone was coming up behind them with their big idiot. The three took off and soon spotted our guy walking by, totally calm with his mask on, looking more like a beast than his own beast. The guy in the black jacket said 2 more idiots had shown up just to die, but the one in green said he heard this guy was ranked number 2 in China. The girl asked if they thought they could take down that zombie, and the guy said it was possible. The other guy kept doubting, saying the ones who died were experts, so even if he managed to scratch the creature, he wouldn't be able to kill it. His friend pointed out the obvious, saying they should just hang back, and if he died, they could grab his loot. But then they heard a scream, and Lin Zi told his monster that there were 3 idiots over there, but they weren't worth his time. He headed to the spot where the orb was, knowing the boss here was a berserker type. The system announced that the reward would be a scroll for switching to the berserker class, and when the battle started, a barrier would go up. There was a hidden condition. The more people fought the boss, the stronger it got and the better the rewards. Our guy remembered a city where so many people died to the boss that it hit level 40. He walked up to the crystal, saw a pool of blood, and picked up some stuff from the ground. While checking out the items from the fallen, he casually tapped the bubble. Meanwhile, the other guy was watching the danger zone from a distance. A system alert notified that our boy had touched the orb and forced the job change in the city of Mu. I actually got that wrong. The fewer people in the challenge, the better the rewards. With just him and one other guy, this was definitely going to be one of the best outcomes. The system, being all sneaky, noticed a mission had kicked off nearby and decided to lend him a hand. A reward window popped up, and the top prize was a high-level profession, but it would be random. Lindsay told the big guy to take the mage class while the other dude could go for the warrior. Man, I didn't realize how massive this thing was. The bronze rank monster had already leveled up to 19 after taking out those 3 fools. Our boy congratulated it, saying it really earned that Titan title. It made total sense. They were acting like idiots, and our boy was sure that, given the boss's situation, this would be a piece of cake. Once the mission started, he got ready to shoot an arrow with his bow. While the boss was eager to drain our boy's power, he let the first shot fly, and the creature brought its arms together to block. At that moment, the boy ordered the big idiot to jump in with the hammer. Even then, the boss managed to defend itself again. But the big idiot created a shockwave, and our boy hit it with a freezing arrow. He celebrated his aim while the boss struggled to figure out why its arm was frozen. Suddenly, the monster roared, and Lindsay froze up. That was a Titan ability that left him paralyzed for a few seconds. He told his monster to hold off the creature, which stopped another attack. Then the boss grabbed its arm, pulled out the arrow, and roared again. Man, this boss was so quick that it swung a hammer before I even saw it pick one up. Our boy barely dodged and activated a fire and ice ability on his bow. He unleashed an attack with both elements, hitting the monster's leg, arm, and back. A near-perfect headshot turned the monster into a bald, charred mess, and that was truly a man's worst nightmare. Our boy realized this creature must have been a construction worker before it died, now dealing with cement. But turning his back on an enemy was risky, so he had to finish it off. He shot another arrow, but the monster had already raised a shield. Lindsay couldn't believe that jerk pulled something like that out of nowhere. Man, the new artist had definitely arrived. Big 80 at 2.0, and who knew he could draw? Our guy told his monster to activate the berserker ability, and right after that, he jumped at the boss. The punch looked like it hit hard, breaking the shield. But now they were tangled up while our guy tried to line up a shot. He fired an arrow at the back, but judging by the monster's reaction and his own pain, It was clear where it actually landed. The monster slammed the fool into the ground, yanked out the arrow, and turned to our guy, roaring. It was trying to show it was innocent, but it couldn't talk. Before our guy could explain it was an accident, the boss was right in front of him, ready to throw a punch. But the big idiot jumped on its back and grabbed its neck. He slammed it to the ground like an MMA, but the monster caught his arm and flipped on top of him. Lindsay shot another arrow, hitting the same spot as before. He could feel the monster's pain now. He told the boss he knew it wouldn't believe him about the accidents. The monster pulled out another arrow, but now it was crawling on the ground in pain. Our guy told the big idiot to dodge and unleash a storm of arrows at it. The creature tried to move, but every shot hit the boss. Smoke billowed from the explosions, and our guy wondered if he had actually won. But then the system warned him that because of his nasty fighting style, the boss had hit max berserker mode. It evolved into a silver rank creature. Lindsay always knew about evolutions before death. He just didn't expect it to jump a whole rank. Plus, all its stats and skills got boosted. Each ability was now way stronger than before. The system said that since the mission got way tougher, the rewards would be better too. The boss then got ready to charge at Lindsay, who knew he had to give it his all. Once more, he dodged by, stepping back, and fired another round of arrows. One hit its arm, but right after, the creature's instant healing kicked in. He switched to his sword and tried to decapitate the boss. But the monster dodged, and the strike hit its chest, causing some damage. The issue was that the big idiot had used too much energy and needed to eat to recover. But our guy didn't just have the big idiot anymore, so he summoned the City of Mu's robot, which would last for 10 minutes. He also called in the zombie cat. With a powerful ability activated on his sword, he charged at the boss. He swung once, and the creature stumbled back. But because of the skill, he was stuck in place for 2 seconds. The monster crashed down and the robot moved in. It delivered a knee strike right to its jaw. The little cat was already on it, scratching and swiping like crazy. The boss tried to break free, but our boy had recovered and slashed its arm again. The downside was that controlling these new creatures was super draining. Then, the boss slammed its fist into the ground, creating a shockwave. Lindsay jumped to dodge, but the big idiot was changing colors, man. I keep saying these artists have all kinds of memory issues. Just as he was getting up, the shockwave hit him. Lindsay landed on the ground, shocked that the boss used Titan's Fury at that moment. According to the description, the more it used that punch, the stronger it got, so things were about to get worse. At least one of its arms was totally wrecked, giving him a chance. He charged at the boss again, which came at him with a one-punch style hit. The impact sent our boy flying, but I think he managed to dodge it. As soon as he hit the ground, he faced another arm and landed a clean slash on the monster's neck. The creature was in pain, and the system warned him he was fighting with more than one person, so his reward would be lower. He chose to ignore that and charged at the boss again, knowing he couldn't let it recover. After a flurry of attacks, the creature finally looked like it was going down. Just as he was about to jump, a group of people rushed into the arena. He warned everyone nearby that they could grab the rewards without actually fighting, which was wild. Everyone was hyped to see what class they would get. The girl tried to warn them that this guy had just taken down the boss, so they should be scared of him instead. But the leader told her to shut it, saying once he got his new class, he'd start messing with her. When a guy says stuff like that, you know he's about to bite the dust. And look who showed up behind them. Our boy was glowing with an aura, and the guys quickly turned, congratulating the great GIE. He claimed he saw the fight and tried to jump in, but he didn't expect to show up right when it was ending. Others started calling themselves fans, but our guy interrupted, asking what kind of nonsense that was. Weren't they just hiding up there, waiting for the right moment to jump in as he was about to take down the boss? Once he realized he was caught, he got flustered and tried to explain himself. But it was too late. He was already taken out. Our guy just said they were a bunch of fakes. He flicked the blood off his sword and said people like them were the ones he hated the most. With a quick glance back, our guy activated the demon's gaze. In that moment, the guy in the green hood seemed affected, turned, and attacked his own teammate, sparking a brawl. Bodies started piling up, and the rewards kept rising as players fell. One of them yelled at our guy, saying he was supposed to be the hero, while the one in yellow argued that a hero should help everyone get stronger, not just look out for himself. He needed to realize that if he wiped them out before finishing, our guy had already taken down another one. The guy talking quickly covered his mouth, realizing that saying too much would make him the next target. The protagonist told them to spread the word. Let everyone know what happens to those who try to steal his rewards. The guys were shaking, scared as he simply made a throat-cutting gesture. Before long, a pile of bodies had formed. Standing over the boss, our guy thought they were foolish for trying to use morality against him. Maybe when the Lee family was hunting him, they should have used all that righteousness to help him instead of letting him suffer so long. With that, the boss was finally taken down, and he got his rewards. Since the difficulty had bumped up to silver rank, his rewards were doubled too. The first chest appeared, and of course he went straight to open it. Inside, he found a scroll and a feather. The scroll said that since he activated the profession change station, a statue of him would be built. Anyone wanting to change professions in this city would have to go to that statue and pay a certain amount of gold, with him getting a cut. Naturally, he signed his name right away. Ariana's mission was completed, earning him even more rewards, and then the previously dormant orb started to glow. The items embedded in the stone were released. The players knew good rewards were coming because the system always boosted things at times like this. The issue was that there seemed to be a bunch of people behind him, and he wasn't in the mood to deal with that. He gave the big guy a couple of smacks and told him to get out fast. They took off, and a blue light lit up somewhere else in the city as people wondered if the boy had taken down the boss. The poor guys were still whining, claiming Lindsay always kept everything for himself while they just wanted a slice of the reward without lifting a finger. What a bunch of freeloaders. Suddenly, there was a global announcement about the day's success and the launch of the profession exchange system in Mu. Since this was the first city to start it, for the next 24 hours, everyone's chances of getting items were doubled, along with extra experience and gold. Everyone in the city leveled up once, and they were all celebrating. Naturally, the girls quickly became fans of our boy. Meanwhile, the other guys were losing it. What a wild scene. From a distance, someone noted that just yesterday, they tried the boss fight with 30 people and all died. The guy stood there with a headband with our boy's name, 2 bodies on the ground, arms wide open, claiming he was the true savior. In another room, a guy mentioned that Ji was from their city, but when everything kicked off, he went to Mu. Still, since he grew up here, he would eventually come back home. Elsewhere in the city, the big guy was just hanging out. Meanwhile, our boy was busy going through his huge list of rewards. He was already level 16 with 12,000 gold coins. Feeling confident, he quietly said he didn't want to draw attention. But now, that was impossible. One of the class change scrolls was for Overlord, where every strength point would give him 4 points instead. This was a great way for him to save points and put everything else into agility since his strength would always be high. Plus, his automatic item collection had leveled up to rank 2. He saw this as a huge advantage because it meant he wouldn't lose any items while fighting hordes. Then he asked about the event where everyone would get double items, wondering if they'd still get at least 1%, since that was the basic rate. But the system told him no, he wouldn't just get double the base chance. He would actually get 200%. With that, he got a chest plate and pants. Both were perfect for battling magic-heavy opponents. Since they were concealable, once he equipped them, it felt like he wasn't wearing anything at all. His stats were still well-balanced, and now it was time to grab those items the system sometimes offered. He had a small potion to boost his physique, nothing major. Feeling a bit too confident, he knelt down, ready to check out the boss loot. He started chanting Amataba, hoping for something good. He pulled out a scroll that gave him extra strength, some physique, and points to use. The issue was, it wasn't really useful for him or the big idiot, so he just tucked it away since it wouldn't help much. Next, he opened one of the last chests. Inside, he found a watermelon knife that boosted his agility, but to use it, he had to shout, "Who wants fresh watermelon?" So he decided to just feed it to another weapon instead. It was time to get back to hunting. With 24 hours of double loot, he had to make it count. He grabbed a recovery potion, started drinking, and called the big idiot over, saying it was going to be a long day. To keep him pumped, he promised a big roast chicken every 20 minutes of kills. With that, they were both excited and headed out. Our guy landed in front of a zombie, looked back, and spotted a huge fat one with a sagging belly. Before it could react, he slashed at it, demanding its double rewards. Then, he told the big idiot to slam his hammer on the ground, making as much noise as possible to lure every monster in the city. While his friend drew them in, our guy was taking them down. Seconds later, he looked around and found himself completely surrounded by the horde. That was exactly what he wanted. Meanwhile, in another room, some folks were checking the equipment rankings, noticing that the top 6 items all belonged to him. The leaders of the young and wealthy families were curious about who this guy really was. The man on the left told the younger one to be quiet since he was only there because his father had passed. But the silver-haired guy asked if he really thought his own kids were better than him. Besides, he knew their boss was in the city of Mu, so it was best not to mess with him. The old man with glasses told them to focus on the real issue, figuring out who Jiai really was. One of them mentioned they first needed to find out his appearance and real name to decide how to handle him. The silver-haired man simply said they should take full advantage of the apocalypse. The world had already fallen into chaos. Why not become the new rulers of this place? If they couldn't use Jiai, they'd just take him out and grab his gear. Everyone went quiet and exchanged glances. The scene switched back to the streets, and for the first time I spotted a girl who actually seemed healthy. The hunters were all smiles, excited about the extra loot and experience. The whole city was pumped to keep hunting through the night. Meanwhile, in his hotel, our guy was sorting through his inventory. He looked outside at the fights happening. Among the crowd was a guy named Zhang Yuanzhang. In his previous life, he was ranked second, but now he was struggling. He was also the one who set off the statue announcement and leveled up fast afterward, but that chance was gone. Our guy realized he was changing the lives of so many people, but honestly, it didn't matter to him as long as he got stronger to face his foes. He dug into his backpack, pulled out some items, and started feeding them to his sword to upgrade it. Then he caught a terrible smell in the room and wondered if his friend had farted. The big idiot pointed at himself. That's when our guy realized he hadn't bathed since everything started. He dashed to the bathroom, and soon after, he felt a lot better. He tossed a towel at the big idiot's face and said it was bedtime. Worn out from the long day, he fell asleep right away. The moon was red while the two rested in the room, and something started to crawl out of the toilet. An eye popped up, followed by a huge rat. Artboy woke up just in time to see the rat staring at him. The creature lunged at him, but he stayed calm, wondering why there was a mutant in his room. The poor thing got sliced in half, making a mess on the bed. Then he heard the sound of countless rats scurrying around the city. Outside, the streets were swarming with mutant rats. As soon as one bit another, they were gobbled up instantly. Our guy stood at the door with the big idiot, trying to figure out what was going on. The system hadn't announced any events or missions. Why were these creatures swarming like this? Maybe it was because of everything he had done, but it felt weird. Peeking out the window, he noticed there weren't too many zombie rats yet, so maybe he was overreacting. Should he go back to sleep? Then it hit him. The noise was loud enough to wake him up. Something was definitely up. When he looked outside, he saw rats flooding out of a sewer. They were moving in a coordinated way, like they had a leader. He turned to the big Adiat and said they should check it out from above. On the top floor of the building, he leaned over the railing to watch the street. There were rats of all sizes, including some pretty evolved mutants. As usual, the jerk was already thinking about all the loot he could grab if he took them out. The issue was, there were way more of them than one person could handle. He had to be careful in this life. He told the big guy to stay put on the ring of nightfall, and started jumping from rooftop to rooftop. He kept an eye on the rats, trying to figure out what was happening. That's when he noticed a bunch of them heading towards a house. He knew it was silly to think he could survive in this apocalypse without fighting, but he decided to check it out anyway. Time passed, and he just stood there watching. Nothing was happening. It seemed like the rats had gone inside and vanished, making him wonder if there was a dungeon in there. Normally, dungeons showed up later, but maybe his actions had changed that. He definitely needed to check it out before anyone else did. He called for the big guy, and as soon as his friends showed up, they were ready to go. Just then, a flock of crows flew overhead. They both ducked for cover on the rooftop, and our boy warned him to be cautious. Something was controlling all the animals. Once again, the rat fog appeared, and now the birds were caught up in it too. Now he was more curious than ever about what was in that mansion. They climbed down from the building and watched the house from across the street. Finally, the fog seemed to be clearing up. This was their chance to check it out, but that wasn't the case, since even the zoo animals were showing up now. All the monsters rushed through the door, and our guy realized he'd have to sit this one out. Inside the mansion, there was a golden portal, and all the creatures were going through it. More animals kept arriving, and the sun was starting to rise. He was still waiting, wondering if it was finally over. He took another look around and celebrated. At last, it seemed like it was over. He called the big guy over and said it was time to figure out this mystery. As he got closer to the portal, the system congratulated him for finding a secret dungeon and asked if he wanted to enter. He mentioned that in his past life, there were two kinds of dungeons. One type had players fighting each other, and the other sent someone to a place full of creatures where they could earn rewards. With his past dungeon experience, he felt sure this wouldn't be too tough. He asked if there was any safety feature, and the system replied that he could ask to leave if he was ever in danger. Feeling reassured, he activated the dungeon right away. The only issue was that the big guy couldn't be forcibly removed by the system, so he pushed his friend back and told him to stay put. He found it odd how obedient the big guy was today, but without a second thought, he stepped into the dungeon and drew his sword. This time, he had to face it alone. As soon as he entered, he found himself in a stone chamber. He tapped on the walls, didn't hear anything off, then slashed at them just in case. Noticing no traps nearby, the dungeon kicked into gear. It was a maze where he had to find the exit, filled with mutated animals and loads of traps. He had a 10-year time limit, after which he'd be forcibly removed. Then the dungeon system announced that because of his special activation, it would be redesigned. Our guy was a bit puzzled. He was sure he had come through the right teleport. Then he stopped to think. Maybe the gate was just a way to attract the animals, and he ended up coming in with them. Apparently, he wasn't meant to be here. But since he couldn't count on the system, there was no reason to be scared. Even though the big guy wasn't around, he still had the 9-form sword. A message then popped up, saying the dungeon had been adjusted to fit his combat skills. A red glow appeared above, and our guy started celebrating, thinking the challenge got easier. But honestly, he's so strong now that it might have actually gotten tougher. Just like that, the system warned him that since he entered the dungeon early, he'd take a 50% penalty. He got a mission to finish the dungeon. He accepted it right away and moved through the halls. He was careful, setting off traps and dodging them, or maybe not so careful, because he suddenly got pulled away. He realized the penalty for exploring the dungeon early was tougher than he thought. He couldn't think of anyone outside who could block that many arrows except for him. Just then, another wave of arrows came flying at him. He dashed right at them, then rolled to the side at the last moment, barely avoiding them. That was close. There was no way he could block all those arrows. So he tried again, swinging his sword to see if more arrows would trigger. After checking, he was able to walk down the corridor. He was starting to feel a bit excited about this. Lately, everything had been too easy, but this felt like it had real danger. He kept walking until he stepped on something. Looking down, he spotted a skeleton. He thought it was just for show. After all, he was the first to activate this dungeon, so no one else could have died here. Further down, he saw a door marked 1 and knocked on it, as if calling out. The door creaked open by itself and a giant rat lunged at him. But a weak creature like that didn't stand a chance. It went down instantly, turning into experience points. They even dropped a fried rice card, which he ate right away. After filling up, it was time to move again. He was lucky to find this dungeon right after switching professions. Otherwise, it would have been a lot tougher. Once again, he had to decide between left and right. He chose the right path and tapped the wall with his sword. Nothing happened. As he hit a 4-way intersection, he was attacked from behind, right where he just came from. He opened door 2 and quickly took out a few more rats. Then he tried door 01, and this time it was a mutant rat boss, but it went down in seconds too. He marked the walls with his blood to map his way. He started to see the pattern. One door had regular enemies, another had bosses, and one was a dead end. The numbers showed how many creatures were inside, not the difficulty. If door 001 had 1 boss, then door 002 had 2 bosses. Meanwhile, door 2 had 2 regular monsters. The enemies were getting tougher, and the traps were more dangerous. He opened door 02, and his guess was right. 2 bronze rank bosses. They attacked, but they were still too weak, giving him easy experience. He also grabbed an agility fruit, which, surprise, boosted his agility. Days went by. On the 4th day, his sword hit 100% and evolved into a diamond rank weapon. His cutting and stunning slash skills improved. All his techniques got stronger. Low-rank enemies became easy kills. While he farmed in the city of Mu, players were buzzing about hitting level 10. Some were curious about where the legendary Jia Yi had gone. One person even guessed he might be dead, but the rankings still had him at level 17. Back in the labyrinth, he sliced through 3 bosses. But these ones were smarter and dodged his attacks. He noticed the challenge was rising, but it was still doable. After taking down a level 9 boss, an explosion trap went off. Even so, he earned more experience and a bronze-ranked chest. But when he reached for it, he got ambushed again. He kept dodging and taking down more enemies, racking up loot. He got the Eye of Discernment, which let him check out living creatures. Now, he could see other players' jobs, titles, stats, talents, and skills. While scanning zombies, he spotted their weak points. With this, he could pinpoint strong foes' weaknesses. He kept feeding his sword with materials and pushed through doors. Next, he hit a spot marked 41, swarming with crows. Scanning them, he saw one with a hurt right wing, a prime target, but there were still 40 more. He kept farming until he hit a dead end. Something felt off. This should have been the exit. Then he spotted a door with a golden dragon design. Inside, there was a golden sphere waiting. The system chimed in, saying the Dungeon of Despair was done. His rewards updated, and he got 2 cheats, the Key of Advancement and the water and fire sources. Then he found a scroll about Fu Shui, a hero from Chinese mythology. Lindsay suddenly recalled someone with powers linked to this legendary figure. If he could get that same ability, all his hard work would pay off. On the ground, a jade necklace showed up. The moment he touched it, elemental forces wrapped around him. Confused, Lindsay suddenly got wrapped in a cocoon. Wow, this jade necklace was risky. He was under attack from all sides, blood trickling from his eyes. It seemed he had to go through some kind of transformation. As he endured, constellations appeared around him. The cocoon glowed with blue energy, and an aura shot up into the sky. Inside, Lindsay fought to break free. Then the item cracked and he came back out. At that moment, the system noted he had absorbed energy from an unknown source, from another planet. His class switched to Green Emperor, likely linked to that legendary figure. The jade necklace floated towards him, surrounded by the 2 elements he had just gained. As soon as he grabbed it, those elements began to circle around him. This gave him the power to control, guess what, those elements. Holding one in each hand, he was blown away. It felt like he had just become a wizard. Right then, the whole dungeon started to crumble. The energy he got was what had been keeping this place alive. A portal opened up, showing him a way out, and he jumped right in. Suddenly, he was back at the mansion where it all began. And, being super distracted, the first thing he did was pull out his phone to check the news, which hit him like a ton of bricks. He had been stuck in there for 2 whole weeks without even noticing. Turning to the side, he spotted the poor big idiot still waiting there, looking hungry. Lindsay was honestly amazed that the beast hadn't moved at all and had waited the whole time. He gave it a pat and promised, "I'll get you some chicken." When he checked the rankings, he saw he was now level 20, while everyone else was still at level 17, so he was still way ahead. Handing his scrolls to the big idiot, he said it was time to get back to grinding. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, a player named Zhang Yuanzhang had just hit level 18. He cheered for finally passing that annoying Jiayi, but when he looked at the rankings, he nearly freaked out. Gi Yi had already reached level 20. At the same time, girls were celebrating, screaming about how their great god had come back. Meanwhile, a silver-haired guy was totally confused. Why had the big idiot stopped leveling up? The shut-in players who just watched the rankings were completely baffled. How on earth did that kid level up so quickly all of a sudden? Back in the real world, Lindsay and the big Adia were devouring their food. His Green Emperor class was still being absorbed. Because of that, all his attributes went up by 3. Plus, he got 5 extra points to use however he wanted. With his class attributes, gear stats, and bonuses, he had 80 points in every stat. Plus, his class let him gather special beads to unlock new elements. With the 8 trigrams pendant, he could tap into elemental powers. This was just what Lindsay needed. He not only had great stats, but also 2 top-tier classes, letting him battle as both a mage and a warrior. But then he noticed something off about the big idiot. The creature was growling in rage, as if it was itching to hunt. Lindsay tried to give a command, but something strange happened. The stupid translator messed up the text, making it hard to figure out what he was doing. Somehow, he got the big idiot to unleash its power. The beast slammed the ground, sending out a shockwave. In the next moment, Lindsay saw elemental energy swirling around his hands. He quickly recognized this as a tired profession effect. After a while, he asked the system to unlock 2 cheats. He got the beast enslavement skill at level 1, but since he already had it, it upgraded to level 2. As they left the mansion, a global message popped up, telling Mu City players that the combat event was wrapping up. But the first place prize went to a player named Moyen, and second place went to Shenu Yoboy. Lindsay realized that while he was stuck in the stupid labyrinth, those guys had been grinding and winning events. The system then announced that once 30% of the city hit level 10, a combat zone would open up. During this time, players could sign up to compete for rewards. Lindsay decided it was time to level up again and told the big idiot to smash the ground. The beast complied, transforming with the Tyrant ability. In the next moment, a horde of monsters poured into the streets. Lindsay had been missing the thrill of taking down these nasty creatures. A dark slash from his upgraded sword tore through the ground, slicing right through the monsters. The big Evia jumped up and crushed them all. In no time, a pile of bodies had formed, and as usual, Lindsay was already checking the system for loot. One of the items he got was a fireball scroll. Technically, his class wasn't supposed to control fire, but that was no longer true. He spread his arms and flames burst around him. He condensed the fire back into his hands and realized his control was even better than he thought. But then, out of nowhere, he lost control and almost went up in flames. An explosion went off behind him, and he realized he had a lot more practice to do than he thought. After burning through a bunch of scrolls, he finally had 2 fireballs in his hands. Now he could condense and control them much more easily. Thanks to using fireballs so much, his Emperor ability let him learn the fireball spell too. Now he just needed his own energy, no more scrolls. Seeing how it worked, he knew he had to hunt down tons of other scrolls scattered around the city. He quickly called over the big idiot, saying they had a new mission. If the event in Yuma City was wrapping up, that meant the ones in other cities were just kicking off. Back in Jing City at the Li family estate, a guy at the table said being in the top 3 wasn't enough. They had to aim for the top. A blonde guy in armor stood up and said second place was doable, but first was crazy. It looked like the strongest guy in their city was named Zhang Yuankang. This story had more Chinese names than any other he'd seen. The late family man insisted, but the armored guy said it was impossible. Zhang Yuanqiang had an army. Still, the man wouldn't back down, claiming all the families had teamed up, so he couldn't win by himself. They were ready to fight for first place no matter what. Everyone in the room agreed, saying they would give it their all. With that, the meeting wrapped up, but as they left, the guy called Shi Jingshan. He told him to find out why Rongzhang wasn't in the rankings and to handle the task he'd given him. Shi Jingshan left while the head of the Li family felt something was off. The Li family had nearly been wiped out, but they needed to rise back to the top. He went into a room, moved a vase, and a secret door opened. He stepped into the hidden chamber, and the door closed behind him. Meanwhile, Lindsay was practicing his fireballs. He was at the city's edge, taking out all the zombies around. Most creatures were around level 12 now, but his upgraded sword was more than enough to deal with them. Ever since mastering fire abilities, he'd been thinking about how to allocate his attributes. He told the big idiot they were about to start a new adventure. A sign showed that another city was just a 50-minute walk away. The two made their way over and soon ran into a swarm of zombies. But when they tried to get in, a message popped up saying the city was still locked. They could only enter once the seal was lifted. Now it all clicked. The key he got didn't unlock instances, it broke barriers instead. When he used it, the system asked if he was sure, and naturally, he said yes. A hole opened up and the barrier vanished. A gap appeared, but something felt off. He thought the other city would be right on the other side. He told the big idiot to follow him and to watch out. As soon as they stepped through, they found themselves in a weird space with a white room ahead. He went in, noticed it was totally empty, and thought that was odd. Then the system said the two players had broken the city gate rule and would be kicked out. But Lin Zi said if he was getting kicked out, he wanted to go to Jing City instead. He realized the big events were going to happen there, and not being able to get in would be a nightmare. The system then said he'd be expelled to the city, but he wouldn't be able to leave. At least he was glad he could make the most of the events. But his mood quickly shifted when he saw the whole city was overrun. With no other option, they started clearing out zombies and tidying up the streets. After a long grind, they were beat. But the experience points were great. Lindsay knew this city was massive, but he didn't expect so many zombies. Then he heard a weird noise and took off running, telling the big idiot to keep up. They raced through the streets as another zombie horde closed in behind them. Lindsay jumped into a sewer and landed inside, while the big idiot followed but ended up falling like a total klutz. Lindsay sighed, saying they'd need a good rest before heading back out. Maybe getting thrown into a zombie pile was the system's way of punishing him for breaking the barrier. One of the items he got from taking down tons of monsters was a wolf fang bracelet, which had a 10% chance to scare nearby creatures in battle. Another was a blood spirit ring that boosted stats the more monsters the wearer killed. He also found a clawed glove with gems that could deal extra damage. But the coolest was a small ring that added half a meter of extra storage space. He had plenty of storage already, but it would be handy for the big guy to have his own stash. They took a break for a bit, and soon enough they were back on the streets. As they strolled along, someone suddenly shouted at the big guy. When Lindsay looked back, a man seemed to recognize them and asked if they were also part of the event. Lindsay just nodded. The guy, looking a bit awkward, asked if he could tag along and lead the way. He tried chatting with the big guy, but Lindsay said if he didn't reply, it meant he was cool with it. The truth was they had missed the announcement, so having a guide was pretty helpful. Then the blonde guy pulled him aside, glanced around carefully, and whispered that this event would shape the future of Jing City. Just like that, he switched outfits and even changed his hair color. Somebody needs to clue these folks in because they clearly don't get it. The guide explained that after a meeting with 3 families, the city's ranking system now decided who could vote and speak. Lindsay remembered that in his past life, This city was one of the first to get a grip on the zombies. While other places were in total chaos, Jing City's military, government, and major families worked together to bring order. But of course, that didn't come without a cost. Lin knew history was repeating itself here. The citizens would lose all their freedom, be humiliated, and used for everything in exchange for a bit of safety. Man, this was some heavy social commentary. Lindsay thanked the hair color king for the info, and, as a friend, offered to sell him some cards for 90 gold each. The guy seemed pretty happy. It must have been a sweet deal. Since they cost 100 in the shop, selling them for 90 was basically charity. Right? Man, this kid had some wild math. But fine. The guy handed over 270 gold coins and asked if he could grab 3 cards. Lin agreed, and just like that, his first deal was done. When he turned around, the crowd had already formed. A girl said she admired him and wanted to buy some stuff too. But Lin explained that he only made that offer to the hairstylist because he gave valuable info. Everyone looked crushed, realizing they wouldn't get anything. Lindsay was frustrated but agreed to sell them for 95 gold each. The guy next to him wanted to argue that it was unfair, but everyone was already giving him dirty looks. With that, Lindsay dropped the box and announced the price as 95 each. No limits. Everyone rushed to hand over their gold, while one guy thought Lindsay was really generous. It seemed like being nice was easy in this world. Meanwhile, Lindsay was pumped because he needed to buy more honor medals, which meant he needed a lot of cash. After a bunch of successful deals, he strolled along with a big idiot. A blonde guy with glasses commented that Lindsay looked troubled. But the other guy confidently said the person next to him was ranked 5th in China, so there was nothing to worry about. Right away, the blonde guy got greedy, suggesting that if it was the great idiot, they could just send 30 people to take him down and grab his loot. Then he pulled out an apple peeler and lunged at the other guy, telling Xiaoshu not to let him down. He wanted to see how many fools would follow the leapfrog idiot right into the trap. If you're confused by this sudden attack, so am I. But the guy was now staring at Lindsay, curious about who this guy was for the big idiot to be trailing him. Just then, someone came running up behind them. It was the hairstylist calling out to them. He asked if they were going hunting tonight since there were still plenty of zombies that could pop up. He grabbed Lindsay's clothes and urged him to leave the area. But at that moment, the other guys showed up behind them. Lindsay stretched lazily and told them to just get on with it. If they were planning to rob him, they shouldn't waste time. The hairstylist clung to Lindsay while he calmly counted their enemies. He smirked, impressed that they had 32 players who had already changed classes. The guy with glasses then warned Lindsay that he shouldn't be doing business in this area. Selling so many cards and resources clearly showed he was from another city, but here, he had to pay a tax. Lindsay didn't care at all. The bald guy made his offer. If Lindsay gave up half of what he made, they would pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, the eager guys behind him would have to take everything by force. But they definitely didn't see Lindsay pulling out his sword and questioning what this nonsense about nothing happening was. They already wasted his time, so he figured he should charge them for it. The rusty dagger he conjured caused double the pain. At that moment, the big idiot went into a rage. He charged right into the front lines, and the fool in front took a hammer to the face. Oddly enough, the guy just clung to the bald man like a leech. Meanwhile, the other players rushed toward Lindsay. From behind, Lindsay calmly remarked that they shouldn't waste their lives like this. They had switched classes successfully, but they picked a fight with the wrong guy. The first dude got a quick jab to the neck and went down instantly. An attack came from above, but Lindsay used his water skill to block all the weapons. The bald guy looked puzzled. How did this kid have so many powers? Then Lindsay blew up the weapons, soaking everyone in the blast. The guy looked scared. All he wanted to know was if they were still going to fight. The bald guy wouldn't back down, shouting at his buddies that they had to kill this kid before he took over the city. Lindsay sighed, thinking this was going to be a joke. He pulled out his sword and swung it. The shockwave sliced through them easily, and suddenly, Lindsay was standing behind a pile of bodies. Chunks of their remains fell to the ground. Was it just me? Or did the bald guy and the red-haired dude suddenly go white-haired? Let's just say he got so scared his hair turned white, and he took off running. But he should have run faster because Lindsay threw his sword like a boomerang and took him down. As far as I remember, the guy used to have a white beard, but now it's black. I'm starting to wonder how many color changes the artist will throw at us. At least our guy's hair was always white, while everyone else was clinging to his legs, begging for mercy. Lindsay smiled and said, "Sure, no problem." All they had to do was pay a small fee. And by small fee, he meant dumping their entire inventories on the ground. Meanwhile, the bald guy was trying to sneak away. Lindsay smirked and casually told him to come back. In no time, the guy was on his knees. After that, the group left in tears. But if you thought Lin Zi was kind, you couldn't be more wrong. He had already told the big idiot to take them all out. The bald guy sensed danger, but it was too late. The ground was stained red. Everyone was now taking their eternal nap. Later, other players showed up and saw the mess. Apparently, they were thanking the gods that this jerk was finally gone since he had been robbing everyone in the city. Meanwhile, a mysterious guy in full gear was watching Jing from a rooftop. He pulled out a gun, fired a shot into the air, and a firework lit up the sky. Lin noticed and muttered that he had caught the attention of the wrong crowd. Meanwhile, in Jing City's safe zone, a man tried to get in, but a soldier stopped him for a check. The place was buzzing with activity, and Lindsay was impressed they built all this in just a month. The catch was that to enter, you had to show your identity. Obviously, that was a no-go for him and the big idiot, but he figured something built in just a month couldn't have perfect security. It wouldn't take long to find a loophole. An hour later, in a section marked with caution tape, he turned to the big idiot. "This is where we're going in." They both put on masks, entered the area, and closed the door behind them. Lin Zi then told the big idiot to find a map of Jing City. Man, that was way too easy. The map was right there. The poor guy quickly found out that the individual combat tournament was happening in the gym, so he decided to check it out. As he walked through the streets, he overheard some guys talking about who the strongest person in the city was. The green-haired guy, who would probably change his hair color soon, confidently said it was General Zhang Yuanzun. But the other guy replied that he heard the general was sick. Lin Zi recalled that in his past life, this guy was ranked first but ended up in third. His friends kept bickering and wanted to place some bets. The green-haired guy said he'd bet 500 coins on the general. Just then, Lindsay showed up, raving about how much he loved gambling. The guy pointed out where the betting house was, mentioning it was run by the 3 major families. Lindsay thanked him and hurried off with a big idiot. The scene changed as they reached the banking district. He was really impressed that the city looked so intact. With 3 hours to go before the championship, Lindsay decided to place a bet. They headed to the betting area, and as usual, the big idiot walked ahead, clearing the path for them. The bookkeeper asked what tickets he wanted to buy. Lin asked how many people had bet on General Zhang Yuanzhan. The guy explained that a lot of folks had placed bets on him. Lin Ji quickly realized why the general had ended up in third place before. The guy then asked what Lindsay wanted to bet on. Lindsay grinned and put his money on the general finishing in third. The bookkeeper looked puzzled and seemed unsure about accepting the bet. But before he could say no, Lindsay slammed his sack of gold on the counter. He declared he was betting 20,000 gold coins on that outcome. People whispered that if he won, he'd get back 60,000 gold. But did the betting house even have that much cash? His girlfriend, though, was convinced the general was the strongest, so she thought Lindsay was wasting 20,000 gold. With a bit of convincing, Lindsay got the big idiot to bet 20,000 too. The bookkeeper was trembling, asking if they were really sure about betting 40,000 on third place. Lindsay just told him to hurry up since the tournament was starting soon. Feeling the pressure, the bookkeeper quickly processed the bet. He then handed over 2 betting tickets. The scene shifted to the gymnasium, where the arenas were already set up. As soon as Lindsay stepped in, the system automatically deducted 10 gold from him. The auto-payment system. He spotted 2 lines, one for spectators and another for participants. With security being a joke, he strolled right into the participants' line. Turns out, anyone above level 10 could join in. Inside, he saw a bunch of confident players gearing up. And there was the legendary General Zhang Yuanzhang, looking sharp with his cape flowing behind him. The signal went off, and the official tournament in Jing City kicked off. It had both a preliminary round and a final round. In the prelims, they'd pick 32 players from the 1,546 present. Multiple arenas were set up where players could either defend or attack. To win, you just had to hold an arena for 5 minutes. If someone took your spot, you were out. All you needed to do was stand firm and fend off every attacker. Of course, it was up to the person in the arena to stay alive. They could choose to give up at any time. With his hands in his pockets, Lindsay casually watched the chaos unfold. This was going to be a total bloodbath. As soon as the match started, players rushed to grab the first open arenas. While he moved at his own speed, he knew the key was to be on the platform when time ran out. The competition started, and Lindsay pulled out a card and sat next to the big guy. They kept an eye on the battle board showing the numbered arenas. The ones in red were already in action. He was amazed at how fast everyone jumped into the fray. As expected, the general stood on his platform, sword ready, while no one dared to challenge him. Meanwhile, Shujing, the blonde guy in armor, was surrounded by girls asking him to teach them some moves. Lin Shi recognized the name. Shujing hailed from the Li family, known as the God of War. He didn't expect to run into someone like this so soon, so his efforts were already paying off. Then, an NPC jumped at the general, claiming that even if no one believed in him, he would be the first to challenge him. The battle started, and the crowd cheered until the guy took one sword strike and immediately gave up. The crowd went wild, chanting Zhang Yuanzhang's name as more arenas came under attack. Then, hooded figures showed up. Lindsay recognized them right away. They were the Lei family's hit squad. A sharp pain in his chest triggered a memory. A fight broke out between Mountain Lampert, who had his arms crossed, and a guy in green called 64. Yep, that was actually his name. Lindsay had been keeping a close eye on everything and knew 64 was way better than Mountain Lampert. But then, out of nowhere, Mountain Lampert landed a solid punch on 64's face, sending him flying. Still, Lindsay believed 64 would win. Mountain Lampert's moves were just too predictable. 64 wiped his nose and pulled out a hidden weapon from his back without Mountain Lampert noticing. He faked another punch, and when Mountain Lampert dodged, he hit him right in the ribs. Mountain Lampert kicked him away, but the tide was turning against him. In the next moment, Mountain Lampert was already behind 64, ready to strike again. But 64 moved like rubber, twisting in midair and landing a spinning counterattack. Then, he kicked Mountain Lampert like a ragdoll, sending him flying out of the arena. The crowd was shocked by the display and realized the tournament was way more dangerous than they thought. Most arenas were falling into the hands of the Li family. The spectators were furious and started hurling objects in protest. Some soldiers whispered, questioning if the Li family was finally showing their true colors. Soon, the old man muttered that he always said the Li family needed to be taken down, but everyone insisted on peace. He Mu, the young warrior, listened as Su declared they would go to war against the three families for ignoring all orders. Someone slammed a chair down. It was that white-haired kid, shouting that the Li family had crossed the line. But the Li family leader just smirked, saying this was the perfect chance to wipe out the other factions. Meanwhile, in the arena, 64 apologized for accidentally killing his opponent. In another arena, the dead guy's friend was fuming with anger. Shujing stepped in, telling him not to be upset because he would be his next opponent. The big guy was itching to jump in, but his dad told him to hold on. They needed to be patient. It was important to watch everyone's moves before making their own. There was only one fight left in Arena 18, and once that was over, it would be their turn. The crowd was saying the Mountain Leopards didn't stand a chance against Xijin, but Lindsay thought they were missing the details. In the arena, the guy who lost his teammate charged at Xijin, who was getting ready to slam his hammer down. The hit crashed into the ground, sending a shockwave that knocked his opponent back. The guy was still recovering when Shujing rushed in, calling him too weak. But just as the attack hit, the guy vanished like smoke. He popped up behind Shujing and managed to land a sword hit. Too bad he hit the armor. What a genius. He was shocked that Shujing was fine, but he could have aimed for the head. Now he was sent flying with a hammer to the chest, crashing down like a broken toy. Shujing walked over to his fallen opponent without any mercy. At that moment, Zhang Yunzhang told the guy to give up before it was too late. The boy on the ground sighed and accepted defeat. Instantly, he was teleported away before anything worse could happen. Then, Shijing turned to the crowd and asked if any other fool wanted to challenge him. That's when the biggest fool of all stepped up. Out of nowhere, a masked figure appeared right in front of him. Nobody had a clue who the masked guy was. Everyone was confused why some random player was stepping up to die at Shujin's hands. Lin Zi summoned his weapon while Shujin smirked. Looks like you want to see what it's like to be smashed by my hammer. Lin Zi bowed and locked eyes with him for just a second. Shijin froze. He saw something terrifying behind Lin Zi. His body shook instinctively, and he started backing away without even realizing it. Before the first attack even landed, he was already at the edge of the arena. One more step and he'd be out. With no other option, he pushed himself to attack, even though every part of him was screaming not to. He activated his Crimson Smash move and landed the hit. But Lin Zi easily blocked it with his sword. A sigil sliced through the air, sending Shujin's hammer flying. He charged in for a punch, yelling that Lin Zi was asking for death. But then, something felt off. Before he could even think, his body was in pieces, sliced up like sashimi. The crowd went wild, screaming and demanding to know who had just taken out the third strongest fighter in the city so quickly. One person shouted that they needed to check this player's status right away. Lindsay had already taken off his mask, made his player name visible, and announced he was there for revenge. He knew his identity as Jue Yi would come out soon anyway, so he didn't care anymore. And then, he made it clear. He had come to Jing City today to get revenge on the Li family. Nearby, Shu from the military watched everything unfold. He was satisfied. At least now, they had a shot at stopping this awful family. And with everyone knowing GE was in the mix, the other players wanted nothing to do with it. They were all fans of his, especially after he sold them so many items. Back in the Lee family's war room, a man nervously bit his nails, saying they had gone too far. They hadn't just dragged in the Lee family, they had also ticked off the military, which would only make things worse for the three families. The head of the faction that sent Shijin claimed at least the threat was gone now, but he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that Shijin was really dead. The worst part? They were officially at war with the military. He revealed that they had soldiers positioned all around the stadium. As soon as the prelims wrapped up, they would storm in and create total chaos. The young heirs leaned back, saying this was their last shot, because if they didn't fix this now, they were done for. The guy in glasses warned that their family better not let them down again. Back in the arena, Linji had grabbed the huge hammer that Shijing was using. It belonged to one of the toughest fighters in the city, so it was top-notch and could heal him with every hit. Perfect for the big guy. He also found a bracelet that gave a small boost to his spirit. Then he summoned a chair and casually sat down, knowing no one would dare challenge him now. He turned to watch Zhang Yuan's match. His opponent was the Li family's second-in-command, one of the strongest fighters around, and he could summon beasts. Lin Ji knew this fight wouldn't be easy. What puzzled him was why the Li family was so invested in this tournament. Just then, the enemy summoned a tiger from a portal right as An Huan charged in. He pulled out a sword, deflected the attack, and got knocked back. At the same time, the tiger lunged at him from behind. It bit down hard on his shoulder, but Zhang Yuan managed to shake it off. Still, his opponent was relentless, using a smoke technique right in his face. His vision was blocked for a moment, and the next thing he knew, the enemy was behind him and took him out. His body hit the ground like trash, and the guy even kicked it for good measure. Some players sighed, saying it was too bad they could only take him out once. Lin Ji thought it was Zhang Yuan's arena, but it turned out to be just a soldier's. He realized this when he saw Zhang Yuan in the distance, punching a wall in anger. He swore revenge on the Li family, and then the big guy stepped into Zhang Yuan's arena. The opponent glanced over, unimpressed. Is this really the best they sent to take me down? He summoned a bear and announced he was about to take another life. At that moment, Lin Ji used his mind control to guide the big guy's moves. The bear swiped, sending him flying. The enemy mocked him, saying his side was too weak. As the big guy landed, he was quickly surrounded by two monsters. He told the wolf to hold back, but the beast charged in anyway. So the big guy pretended to retreat, then suddenly launched into a spinning kick, knocking the wolf's jaw sideways and sending it flying. Then he hit the bear with another spin kick, causing it to explode on impact. In that moment, the opponent figured it out. The big idiot had been holding back his real power. He tried to give up, but before he could finish, the big idiot came flying in and kicked him right in the chest. He crashed to the ground, scrambled to the menu to forfeit, but his hand got pinned down by the hammer, and then his head rolled away. Lindsay dropped the mind control, and the big idiot stood there grinning like a champ. The crowd went wild, excited to see someone finally stand up to the Lee family. Meanwhile, Lindsay was celebrating on the sidelines. His main goal was to make life hell for the Lee family in Jing City. Honestly, he hardly had to lift a finger. They had already ticked off the military, which was a dumb move. He kept watching as more fights broke out. A stab here, a slash there. Two girls were struggling to even lift their swords. A bit sexist, if you ask me. And just like that, the qualifiers wrapped up. The players who lost sighed in relief, all thanks to Lin Zi. It had been pretty dull overall. In the end, 14 soldiers, 10 random nobles, some secret organization members, Lin Zi, and the big idiot all made it through. Right now, the big idiot was more pumped than ever. He wanted his new hammer. Lindsay pulled it from his inventory and handed it over. The big idiot lit up with joy. Just then, the system sent out a message. Every player who advanced needed to go to their info booths. When Lin Zi got to the booth, he found an orb inside. As soon as he touched it, the system confirmed his qualification. At the same time, his personal system gave him a special mission. If he came in first, he'd get exclusive rewards. Of course, he accepted. Outside, Zhang Yuanqiang walked up to him. Zhang tried to introduce himself, but Lin Zi cut him off, saying he already knew who he was. He told him to get to the point since he was short on time. Our guy was as straightforward as ever. Zhang Yuan explained that the city was facing an apocalypse and a ton of issues, and he wanted to recruit Lin Zi. But Lin Zi wasn't interested at all. He simply said if Zhang had nothing worthwhile to offer, he should just leave. Zhang sighed, accepting the rejection, and asked Lin Zi to meet General He Shui. Finally, this was what Lin Zi had been waiting for. However, Zhang warned that the military was planning to take action against the three families. They moved to a private spot away from others and locked the door. Zhang explained that even before the apocalypse, the three families had bribed a lot of government officials. This made it really tough to go after them, as taking them down would shake up the whole power system. But after the apocalypse, many officials turned into zombies, removing a lot of those barriers. Unlike the government, which was trying to save Jing City, the three families were just fighting for control and riches. That's why Zhang needed Lin Zi's help, especially since he had declared in the arena that he wanted revenge on the Li family. But Lin Zi just laughed. He pointed out that if they kept working like this, it would take forever. Zhang looked confused. Lin Zi told him he could see Zhang meant well. But the real question was, what would he gain from taking down the whole Li family by himself? And it would happen way faster than Zhang could even think. Zhang stared at him, unsure if he should believe it. But Lin Zi just smirked, telling him to make a solid offer quickly, because this was his only shot. Then he turned and walked away, calling for the big idiot. Outside, dozens of people were running around in a panic. They were shouting that the southwestern barriers had fallen and zombies were pouring in. Apparently, anyone who helped defend the area would get a 50% bonus in gold. Everyone was rushing off in a frenzy. But Lin Zi immediately sensed something was off. He grabbed one of the players by the shoulder, making him flinch. The guy shouted for him to let go, but when he saw who it was, he froze up. Lin Zi asked what was happening, and then the general showed up demanding answers. The player quickly filled him in, saying that as soon as the barriers went down, the Li family called for help to fend off the zombies. But before anyone could grasp the situation, it all spiraled into chaos, and everyone took off. Lin Zi wanted to know who spilled the beans, but the guy said it was total chaos. Just as Lin Zi suspected, the Li family had intentionally released monsters in the city to create a distraction. They were clearly trying to pick a fight with the military and use the mess to slip away. He immediately called for the general, telling him that the entire Li family had probably pulled a fast one. Zhang looked puzzled, but Lin Zi insisted there was no time to explain. They needed to start tracking those guys down before they got too far. Zhang agreed and said he'd rally the troops, but Lin Zi should stay back since it was too risky. Zhang then dashed off with the army. Meanwhile, Lin Zi figured it was time to enjoy the chaos. Around the city, people were buzzing about the incredible battle they had just seen. They talked about a swordsman who took down an opponent in a flash, but one guy, with his hands in his pockets, scoffed that they must be out of their minds. Then he pointed behind them. The exact two people they were discussing were walking right toward them. His friend nearly jumped in fright because it was really them. They quickly ducked their heads and stepped aside, letting Lin Zi pass without a hitch. Once he was gone, they sighed in relief, thankful they didn't get taken out. A little later, Lin Zi and the big idiot showed up at a huge building. Inside, everyone was waiting for him. The two walked through the crowd, and the big idiot looked around, confused. The place was packed with players, probably because it was the city's marketplace. Lin Zi stepped into one of the shopping capsules, and tons of items popped up in front of him. The catch was that he quickly realized everything here was way pricier than in most other cities. But for someone who had sold a bunch of stuff earlier, the high prices didn't bother him. So he kept shopping until it got dark. At 10 p.m., he called the big idiot over and said it was time to grab some fried chicken. As they walked through the streets, they passed some soldiers. The soldiers told them to head home right away since no one could be out after 10 p.m. Lin Zi turned back. One soldier recognized him and went pale. He quickly backtracked, saying he actually hadn't said anything. His friend muttered they nearly got themselves killed. Lin Zi just walked away. The scene switched to the Yin family's mansion. Inside, the white-haired guy was furious, smashing furniture like crazy. He shouted that Lai Xue had totally messed up their plans. He wanted to know why the fools who made deals with that jerk had suddenly gone quiet. He grabbed one of them by the collar and growled, "How are we supposed to handle the military now that they're all over us?" Just then, a woman walked in. She said a player from the tournament had come to see him. He raised an eyebrow. It was odd, but he figured he'd hear them out. After all, that player wanted revenge on the Li family, not on him. But the woman told him the boy had sent a message asking if he planned to keep the family intact. With no other option, An Jiming agreed to meet Lin Zi to see what he wanted. Now, with his feet casually up on the table, this was Jiming, the head of the An family. Lin Shi walked in and sat down, noting that Jiming seemed pretty cautious. But Jiming got straight to the point, asking why Lin Zi, who opposed the Li family's plans, had come to see him. Lin Zi replied that he had nothing against Xu Ming's family, but they both shared a common enemy, the Li family. Jiming made it clear he didn't want to start a war with them, but Lin Zi smirked, saying he was misunderstanding things. He wasn't here to discuss war. He was here to talk about someone involved in the An family's beekeeping. a guy named Pan Gouchi. Xiaoming's face darkened. He immediately thought Lin Zi was implying Gouchi was a spy for the Lei family. That's impossible, he shot back, saying Lin Zi didn't know anything about the three families' roots. But Lin Zi just laughed, claiming he knew they raised kids from a young age, trained them as killers, and used them to take over the city. Even worse, most folks connected to the three families were cursed, meaning they could be taken out at any moment without a clue. Jimming slammed his hand on the table. That doesn't make sense. But Lin Zi told him to put his hand near his belly button and tap his chest 3 times. Jimming hesitated but went along with it. The next thing he knew, he was coughing up blood. Shocked, he demanded to know what just happened. Lin Zi calmly asked if he had been learning any techniques from the Li family. But Xiaoming kept denying it, insisting that these techniques had been passed down in his family for centuries. Lin Zi sighed, realizing it wouldn't be easy to convince him. But in his past life, Xiaoming only broke the curse after reaching a super high level during the apocalypse. By then, it was too late. The Li family had already taken everything from him. Even worse, they had his wife and child as hostages. This time, he wouldn't let such talent go to waste. With no other choice, Shiman gritted his teeth and asked, "How do I break this curse? How much time do I have left?" Lin Zi smiled. That totally depended on how fast he could grab the antidote from the Li family. Jiang Ming nodded seriously, saying he'd take care of it ASAP. But Lin Zi, always the gossip, leaned in and said, "I know about another infiltrator." Jiang Ming's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Lin Zi placed a document on the table. It was a complete list of every single spy from the Li family. But there was a catch. That piece of paper cost 200,000 gold coins. Jiang Ming's expression darkened as he slammed the table again. "You might as well just rob me at this point." Lin Zi just smirked and told him to make a counteroffer. After a long pause, Jiang Ming reluctantly said he could only go up to 80,000. Lin Zi laughed. It was always entertaining to negotiate with desperate folks. Still, he turned down the offer. He told Jiang Ming that 80,000 was just what he'd lose when everything went south. Then the scene shifted. Now he looked like an ordinary guy in a suit with brown hair. Lin Zi was back in his room, holding a fire scroll. It had a technique for a flame-powered flying carpet. Since he controlled fire, he could use it with ease. The next morning, he was totally wiped out from practicing all night. One new technique let him wrap his weapon in flames. He activated the ability right away, slicing through the air, and was amazed at how simple it was. Then he aimed at the table. As soon as his blade touched it, the whole thing melted like lava. Happy with that, he called over the big idiot. Now the final match preparations were done. In front of the stadium, everyone was placing bets on who would win. Then a message told all the finalists to enter the booth right away and get ready. At that moment, Zhang Yuan called out to our boy, saying he'd already talked to the leader about his request. To discuss this more, they wanted to chat with our boy after the tournament. Our boy thanked him and said it was cool while thinking this was the perfect chance to squeeze these officials. He then approached an orb and placed his hands on it. The tournament rules were pretty complicated. The winner moved on, and the loser got eliminated. Our boy then appeared in the room, and the voice announced that the competition was about to start and that the first opponents were being chosen. Our boy's first opponent was number 013. He touched the sand and got teleported. When he arrived, the guy was already coming at him. Before he even saw who it was, the dude was bragging about his venom-coated dagger. But as soon as he realized it was our boy, he dropped to his knees and apologized, saying he didn't want to fight. With that, our boy moved on and scored 2 points. Everyone was amazed, saying the guy gave up in just 0.1 seconds, almost breaking a record. Meanwhile, a bald dude was watching our boy with great interest. Time passed, and a mushroom grew on his head since nobody wanted to challenge the kid. He figured he might as well watch the other matches since it was the only fun thing happening. Was that Zhang Yuan against the big idiot? Our boy checked out the general's stats and saw he had a ton of cutting and explosive skills. He charged at the big idiot, his sword on fire, but the brute blocked it with a hammer. He tried to swing from above, but the general was quicker, sending a shockwave that made him back off. The general was surprised that this kid's subordinate was so strong. But he couldn't afford to lose. His reputation in the army was on the line. Meanwhile, the big idiot was getting messages from Lin Lu, warning him that if he didn't beat Zhang Yuan, he'd be missing out on chicken pieces for a while. So he activated Berserker and charged at the general again. "Dude, are you really going to try blocking that hammer with a sword?" It was impressive how he managed to dodge the attack. At the same time, he activated an army blessing that gave him a 20% damage reduction. He charged at the big idiot again, this time even faster. He aimed for the back while staying protected, but the brute countered, sending him crashing back and dragging him along. Blood was already coming from his mouth, and he realized this guy was tougher than he thought. He knew it was time to use his trump card, so the war general showed up, and in a flash, he transformed. Not only that, but he also summoned an army. I gotta say, this general has some serious swag. Lindsay was pumped because he remembered that in his past life, this guy used the army release technique to take down a level 80 zombie. This was an early version of that epic technique, but it was still super powerful. The big idiot roared, got ready, and jumped at the general. This time, he went for a triple slash and clashed head-on with the guy diving in. A golden explosion went off in the arena, blinding everyone and wrecking the whole place. The general was on the ground, worn out, but right in front of him, the big idiot was also down. Despite bleeding like crazy, this zombie somehow managed to get back on his feet. He looked at the general, who was struggling but not doing great. Oddly enough, he smiled, and the big idiot smiled back. They stood there facing each other while everyone cheered, finally seeing a real fight. Lindsay was also impressed by how both of them performed. He had no clue who would take the win. Honestly, I don't really know who won or lost, but now we're back in the room. They were about to heal the general, but he told them to help the big idiot first. However, our guy said it wasn't needed since he had already given him some medicine. The guy said that was fine, but to let him know if anything was needed. Clearly, Lindsay didn't want any doctors near the monster, or they'd find out he was a zombie. With that, I think the competition wrapped up. The announcement said the top rank would get a gold item, while the big idiot in second place would get a silver item. Considering even the general's best subordinate got taken down by the big idiot, he really didn't stand a chance against our guy. People in the crowd were shocked the general ended up in third place. Plus, the only person with gold gear just scored another piece. Nearby, someone totally unassuming was watching everything unfold. I think it was that kid from the Leaf family, punching the wall in frustration, blaming it all on that damn guy. People noticed him leaving the arena before anyone could recognize him. Everyone was celebrating while our guy was just chilling and eating. And, yeah, that was pretty much it. The system announced he won and got the golden blink boots. I don't know why I thought there would be a big competition since our guy has always been way more OP than everyone else. These boots had spatial powers, so it made sense they were a championship prize. Once equipped, some of our guy's stats were already over 100. And of course, since he won, he also got the mission reward the system assigned. When he opened it, he found the silver rank Shadow Demon gloves. Lindsay noticed these were part of the gear he already had, so it was strange the system gave him that specific piece. But now, with the full set, the boost went up by 15%, which was definitely handy. Meanwhile, the big guy was munching on his chicken thigh when our boy told him to hurry and check the system. He looked all confused and scared, and then our boy spotted it. For second place, he got some pretty lame silver armor and quickly realized it was a total letdown. The big guy, on the other hand, was bummed that his chicken pieces had dropped. Our boy just shouted at him, saying they had more important stuff to deal with. Obviously, they needed to grab that bet reward since it was a huge amount of cash. Outside, some folks looked a bit uneasy. A soldier came running up, wanting to talk to our boy. Apparently, there was an emergency meeting happening, and our boy was called in. He wanted to know what was up, and the guy explained that while the tournament was on, the Leaf family had pulled a sneaky move. Who would have guessed? They lured a bunch of zombies into the area and dumped them in the city. With the strongest fighters at the arena, the army tried to hold the line, but over 1,000 soldiers fell. Still, Lindsay knew that no matter how strong the Leaf family was, they couldn't have gathered thousands of zombies that quickly. He then said he would join the emergency meeting, and in the next scene, we were in the conference room where General Shu slammed the table, declaring this was no longer up for debate. The Lee family had shown their true colors. Hei Mu asked everyone to chill, saying they needed to figure out how to handle this. Another guy in a hat said it wasn't the right time to go after the Lee family since they had to focus on rebuilding the city. Some suited guys on the side agreed. They said the Lee family's reputation couldn't be damaged, or it would shift public opinion on the three-faction alliance. Everyone was trying to convince the old man that it was too risky to go against them right now. Then Zhang slammed the table, saying it was absurd to think they could finish the safe zone while the Lee family was sabotaging everything. What he really wanted to know was how much each of them was getting paid to keep defending the Lee family like this. Hei Mu urged everyone to calm down, claiming their loyalty was to the city. Meanwhile, the guys from the other family agreed, saying they needed to look at the bigger picture and that this whole situation was too risky. Then someone chimed in, backing General Zhang. Looking toward the door, who was arriving? Our masked boy. Right away, Hei Mu told them to kick him out, saying someone like him shouldn't be in this meeting. The old man next to him shot back that he was the top player in the championship, so his input was important. Still, He-Mu insisted that they couldn't share sensitive info with someone like him and ordered a soldier to take him out. General Zhang then chimed in, saying he was the one who brought the kid in and asked if anyone had an issue with that. He-Mu kept saying that letting in someone they didn't know was too dangerous. Lin-Zi replied that while He-Mu might not recognize him, he definitely knew who he was. This was a man who had lost his wife and daughter to zombies but still fought on in the army. Through hard work, he had made it to where he was now. But the kid wanted to know if he had ever heard of Lin Kai-Yi. He looked surprised and glanced at the Li family members. The kid revealed that he knew the Li family had told He-Mu this guy was his son and that he was still alive. Since then, He-Mu had been following the Li family's orders to protect him. A general stood up and asked He-Mu if that was true. Just then, a message popped up, warning all players that a zombie invasion would start in 5 hours. But from the size of the message, it was clear they were in for a huge horde. He-Mu started shaking, questioning if this was even possible. Then he burst out laughing like a maniac, saying the Li family had more tricks up their sleeves. He declared that this place wouldn't hold, meaning everyone there was doomed. Kai Wei slapped him hard, calling him a total beast. But He-Mu just said he was done serving old guys like them and was excited to see them all get sacrificed. Lin-Zi thought this was odd. This kind of horde invasion was supposed to happen way later in the game. The message went on to explain that for an invasion of this size, 3 things had to happen. First, the location needed a secure base. Second, there had to be a huge buildup of zombies nearby. Finally, a creature that could control the whole horde had to be born. The kid still found this weird since the base was only half finished. Any horde attacking this place would have no trouble wrecking everything. He put his hand on his face, realizing another tough fight was coming. Then he grabbed He-Mu by the collar, saying since he had revealed this informant, he was taking him. Cho Chang said that was cool as long as He-Mu ended up suffering a terrible death. Our guy thanked him and mentioned they could just ask him if they had any questions. With that, he stepped outside, mentioning they had a lot to handle. Once outside, he set He-Mu down on the ground while some soldiers walked by. The soldiers joked about how He-Mu was being carried like a chicken and wondered if Jiren had really gotten that strong. He-Mu looked like one of those female characters who were all starry-eyed over the hero. But instead of being treated well, he got a chokehold followed by a face-first slam into the ground. He-Mu suggested they should just finish him off already. He didn't care since everyone there was doomed when the horde showed up anyway. Hearing that, people realized he was a traitor. At that moment, Lin-Zi pulled out a scroll and cast a soundproof barrier so no one could hear them. The orb lit up, and the big guy stood guard to keep anyone from coming in. He-Mu kept insisting there was no way out. With the city sealed off, everyone was going to die there. Our guy just punched him in the face and teeth went flying. Then he asked where Lai Lixuan, the head of the Li family, was hiding. Naturally, He-Mu refused to answer. Our guy replied that he enjoyed a more challenging kind of love. He got closer and asked if He-Mu was ready to talk now. The guy said no, so he pinched his hand. As he kept pinching, our guy said he was eager to hear everything He-Mu knew about the Li family. At that point, the guy was already begging to be put out of his misery. This one was a piece of cake. But our guy simply said that as long as He-Mu didn't spill the info, he'd stay alive. He paused the torture for a second and then asked if He-Mu was tired of pretending. Before the guy could respond, he hit his other hand. This time, he wanted to know what orders Lai Lixuan had given him. He-Mu explained that he smuggled resources and sometimes sent soldiers to places where they'd get killed. Once again, our guy wanted to know what Lai Lixuan had told him before he ran away yesterday. He-Mu replied that all they wanted was to delay any actions against the Li family for as long as possible. Lin-Zi wanted to know where they met or how they talked. He-Mu mentioned a spot called Chamardent, saying the Li family ran it. He asked if there was anything else, but He-Mu said no. At that moment, He-Mu figured the guy would want to keep him alive for more torture later. But when the chaos kicked off, he planned to find a way out. However, Lin-Zi wasn't about to give him that chance. He finished him off with a swift neck strike, kicked him aside, and even called for an umbrella. The guy was definitely done, with an eye rolling on the ground. Next, we saw our boy at the betting house collecting his bets. The woman checked the records and confirmed he'd correctly guessed the general would place third. According to the math, he was set to receive 123,000 gold coins. It was surprisingly straightforward. She just checked the system and the money was already in his account. With that, he walked out, now super rich. Later on, he and the big guy were at Ching's shops. While our boy was shopping, the monster was busy devouring his chicken. Our boy managed to snag the city token for 225,000 gold coins. Man, that thing was pricey. People outside were shocked. wondering who this rich guy with so many coins was. Then our boy stepped out of the shop and everyone was in awe. Looking at his hand, he finally got what he wanted, the city honor emblem that came with some perks. Every 2 days, he could make an announcement everyone would hear. He could also inflict fear, pain, and other negative effects more easily when fighting in that area. Plus, his chances of getting items from monsters in this city were better. Anyone who attacked him would lose attributes for 5 minutes, and he could summon a divine creature from Jing in any battle. As he left, he felt a bit let down, thinking there should have been more perks for 225,000 coins. At least he could summon the city's legendary dragon. The only catch was that it only lasted 2 minutes. Now, it was time to spend more cash and get a new outfit for the big guy. The lunatic had formed the perfect duo, and they were now dressed exactly the same. Back in the meeting room, someone called for General Sui. Dong asked what was going on, and the soldier explained about the barrier around the city. Even more tanks couldn't break through, so escape was impossible. Plus, no zombies had shown up yet, so they had no clue how intense the attack would be. One guy was thankful they had a lot of champions on their side, but another reminded them that the Li family had taken out many army soldiers. Zhang assessed the situation and figured they could only defend 2 directions at most. When someone asked if they had to guess where the zombies would come from, Zhang confirmed they did. The soldier said they needed to set up in the 2 spots where zombies were most likely to show up. The issue was that if the horde came from another direction, they'd have to move everyone, and it might be too late. The blue-haired guy pointed out that without defenses, the city could be wiped out. Shu replied they had no choice, so they needed to quickly decide which directions to defend. They noted that Zhang had combat experience, so they decided to follow his lead. They agreed to defend the east and west. The western walls were still unfinished, and the Li family had wrecked everything in the east. The zombies would definitely exploit the weak spots. It looked like the general just went along with it, and the 2 left the room. Meanwhile, our guy, exhausted, was lying on the bed, staring at the system. He could easily slip away from these creatures and leave the city. The catch was that if everyone died, there would be serious consequences. He grabbed the megaphone, typed something, and sent it out. I honestly have no clue what it was. It was supposed to be a secret. Actually, it wasn't because the message popped up for us to see. He blasted the Li family and warned everyone they were the traitors behind the invasion. Meanwhile, at the Li estate, their guy was already fuming at our boy, and he hadn't even seen the announcement yet. He was grumbling that if he got the chance, he'd tear that guy apart. Then the butler walked in and told him something terrible had happened. He asked what was going on, and the man explained that an announcement had revealed the Li family as the traitors behind the zombie invasion. Because of this, everyone who had backed the Li family was pulling away, and they were losing a big part of their manpower. He wanted to know if their secret allies were ditching them too, and the old man confirmed that they were. Nobody wanted to back them anymore. That announcement ruined any chance they had to bounce back, and Jing City was looking pretty chaotic. The patriarch nearly collapsed, and the old man rushed to support him. One of the guys jumped in to help, saying the poor guy had fainted from pure anger. At 0830 on the east side, the military was gearing up. Nuno asked if everyone was already there, and the officer replied that they had 50,000 troops on hand. Out of those, 20,000 were military, 15,000 were from noble families, and another 15,000 were from smaller groups. There were also 100,000 more in the back who could help, but they were totally unprepared. If the creatures got to them, it would probably be game over. The general shut his eyes and said it was okay. As long as they kept the creatures from breaking through, there was nothing to worry about. After all, there was no going back now. The north and south would only have a few troops, just enough to hold off the creatures while they shifted their forces. All they could do now was hope the attack hit the areas they were ready for. Then the system announced that the invasion was about to start and would last for 5 hours. The general looked at the city, and at the Kyoto building, everyone was gathered around a blue crystal. A message about merit points popped into everyone's heads. It seemed like the players figured out that the crystal was something crucial that needed to be protected. The general told the strongest players to guard that spot while the army held the front lines. Someone suggested they should call the big idiot and our boy. Zhang knew those 2 couldn't be controlled, so giving them orders was pointless. He just told the officer to hurry and pass on the other info. Meanwhile, our boy was in his room practicing the water element. He had picked up a vortex skill that pulled creatures toward the center, making it ideal for handling hordes. The system then announced that since the area was about to be attacked, a mission was being issued. Because the zombie force was way stronger than the city, if he survived and ranked high, he'd get a golden item and 2 cheats. Lindsay was stunned that even the system was saying the city's forces were weak. Clearly, whatever was coming wasn't going to be easy. He quickly grabbed the big idiot and told him to stop eating because they had a lot to do. With that, they left the building, headed for the streets, and the system announced that the attack was about to kick off. A warning popped up for our guy, and suddenly a red orb started to grow. Out of it, a huge swarm of zombies came rushing in. The zombies moved toward the city, and oddly enough, there were little system windows floating above their heads. From a distance, it was obvious the horde seemed endless as they charged forward. The general raised his arms, telling everyone to get ready and charge. A huge golden star hit the middle of the zombies. Ice spikes shot up, taking out many, while giant slimes were summoned to trap them, and the general urged the army to keep pushing forward. I thought they'd be using guns, but turns out they had magic too. Unfortunately, there were always those unlucky souls with no skills who had to face zombies head-on just to meet their end. From a distance, John watched the mayhem. Then an officer reported that they were holding the line for now. The general ordered the third defense line to pull back and take a break, then sent in the second line. Just then, someone reported that a horde of 7,000 zombies had shown up in the north and they needed reinforcements. This was exactly what he feared, so he quickly asked for an update on the eastern region. The officer said it was too soon for details, but they confirmed our guy was there. However, no one had spotted the big idiot. The general wondered if that reckless hero was actually planning to take on the horde by himself. He told the officer to gather more intel while he kept an eye on the advancing army. The young soldier was fired up, saying if he was going to die, he wanted it to be in a glorious way. Meanwhile, on the eastern barrier, the troops had their swords ready, echoing the same sentiment. They were eager to die defending their country. Then someone burst out of a tent, announcing that Luminich Jia was charging into battle solo. Our guy jumped off the wall with his sword while the soldiers yelled that it was too risky. But when they realized it was him, the loyal ones stepped back, deciding it was best not to get too involved. Lin Zi got ready to attack with his sword and unleashed a wave of fire, igniting the horde. In just a second, smoke filled the area as he kept charging into the swarm. The soldiers watching started feeling like cowards for not helping. One by one, they left the base, saying they couldn't just let him handle everything alone. The whole army moved forward and began taking down zombies. Amid the chaos, our guy was creating water vortexes, pulling in the undead. His magic was draining fast, so he pulled out a small chair and some tea to recharge. Just then, a hefty zombie lunged at him with a toxic attack. He quickly closed his teacup, popped up behind the zombie, and landed a solid kick. Then he sliced through another one with his sword, muttering that this was still too easy. But more zombies were closing in from behind. He raised his hand, activating the water vortex that sucked in a ton of zombies. Once they were all gathered, he conjured a fireball and blew them all up. He even leveled up while the soldiers stood there, stunned. Among the horde, a bearded zombie watched, puzzled about how one human could take on so many. He started to worry he might need to sacrifice a quarter of the horde to handle this guy. The problem was, if he took too long, reinforcements would show up and everything would fall apart. They couldn't let one human ruin the whole operation. Since his modified zombies weren't cutting it, he decided to send as many creatures as possible all at once. But Lin Zi had bought a distraction scarecrow from the shop. He set it on the ground, and the zombies immediately flocked to it, allowing him to slip away easily. The only downside was some creatures were starting to head toward the gates. Even with all his power, he couldn't stop the zombies from advancing from every direction. With the growing number of creatures, it looked like the northern area was reaching its limit too. He crouched down, jumped into the air, and activated the city's medallion. At the same time, he had to drink a spiritual potion. The medallion started glowing with a purple aura, and the zombies looked terrified. A golden lightning bolt shot through the sky as he pointed at them. The explosion was visible from anywhere on the battlefield. Some soldiers saw it as a sign from above. He landed, eager to see what the medallion had done. Among the zombie horde, a purple spirit surrounded by lightning had appeared. The soldiers, scared of getting caught in its attack, ran for their lives. Meanwhile, Lin Zi just watched as it moved forward. It was eerily silent in its ghostly form. Even Lin Zi was impressed. It was a legendary creature. The way it looked at him made him wonder if it had a mind of its own and could understand him. But there was no time to find out. There were too many monsters around. He used his mind control to send the Qilin charging at the zombies. A lightning bolt zapped through the whole crowd. Lin Zi realized this was the perfect way to deal with these creatures. The summon kept firing off its energy. Meanwhile, the zombies were clutching their heads, falling apart. The little dragon was even smiling and having a blast. The monsters, on the other hand, were definitely not having as much fun. It seemed like not a single one of them made it. Our boy leveled up twice, jumping straight to 26. Qilin was flying over the city, taking out zombies left and right. But soon, the mist started to clear. The creature turned into a crystal and shattered completely. At least it lasted long enough for our boy to hit level 27. The other players were celebrating since the crystal was still whole. But one girl was shocked that the top player had jumped straight to level 27. And as usual, our boy got some items. One was a thunder orb he could use on the trigrams to learn or predict an element. The other was a dragon scale that boosted health regeneration and increased lightning damage. For him, it was the perfect combo. He wondered if he could take a scale every time he summoned the dragon and make a whole suit of armor out of it. But there were still some zombies left in the city. He noticed they seemed a bit more cautious now. The only weird thing was that the dragon had wiped them out so completely that he hadn't gotten any drops. To boost himself, he decided to use the scale right away. When he activated it, it fused into his chest, creating a dragon emblem. His stats went up along with his regeneration. Now that the zombies had pulled back, he decided to check out other areas. The army guys were pumped to fight with him, though some were still grieving for their fallen friends. Now, it was time to regroup and help out the other areas. The folks guarding the crystal were stunned by the ranking system. One girl said it was crazy for the top player to have such a huge lead. Meanwhile, a bat-like creature was getting closer in another part of the invasion. Only the mages could handle the bat-like creature, so they started casting spells into the air. The general in this area was asking if reinforcements had been called, as they were close to losing control. Just as he was giving orders, the ground shook. He looked toward the noise, saw smoke rising, and suddenly zombies burst out of the ground. In the thick of battle, soldiers and players fought side by side. The massive creatures coming up from below were tough, and sword strikes weren't doing much. Meanwhile, spells lit up the sky as they battled the flying monsters. But ahead, another wave of creatures was charging in. The general told them to hold the line since the crystal was right behind them, and they couldn't let anything through. The soldiers charged forward, took their spots in front of the monsters, and raised their shields. The mages kept launching fireballs, but one of the giants swung its giant fist and sent a whole squad of soldiers flying. Those shields were more trouble than they were worth. They were getting grabbed and thrown around like ragdolls. The creatures kept pushing forward while the captain yelled for them to stand firm, assuring them reinforcements were on the way. The artist decided to make things easier by adding a new creature, the invisible zombie. It was totally unseen, even by us. They started pouring water on the ground since that was the only way to spot the footprints of these creatures. They surrounded the crystal with water while keeping an eye out for movement behind them. A soldier was about to speak when he suddenly got hit in the neck and dropped to his knees. One player freaked out when a spinning hammer flew through the air and smashed the monster into pieces. When he turned to see, it was the big guy showing up all swaggering. He was being controlled by Lindsay, who was nearby to protect the crystal. He moved in, slicing through both the huge zombies and the invisible ones. His presence gave the troops a fresh shot at victory. Out of nowhere, something zipped toward the crystal at lightning speed. The monster was moving so fast that its skin color shifted as it attacked. Just before it got to the crystal, a spinning hammer hit its leg from behind. The creature dropped dead, and the big idiot let out a roar before diving back into the fight. The players and soldiers lined up in front of the crystal. The battle went on until, eventually, the area was totally clear. Everyone was wiping off sweat, and there was a stylish blonde guy, Naaman Jawang. An army officer told him he could take a break after fighting so hard. The players were all praising him, saying they saw him take on his army alone, and it was amazing. He stayed silent. Turns out this guy was mute. He sat down to rest when someone came over. It was the big idiot, and the others thought they might know each other. But out of nowhere, the big idiot raised his hammer and slammed him into the ground. Everyone was stunned, but then his body started to change. In the pool of blood, a thin, weak creature emerged. It was a parasite that could take over a person's body and use all their skills. The only downside was it couldn't talk. Everyone finally got why Anjoang hadn't responded. Our boy called for the big idiot and said it was time to head to the next area. With that, he let go of his control, and the scene shifted to General Zhang's battlefield. Countless zombies were scattered around, and it seemed he had managed to hold that part with his army's help. The issue was that at that moment, he got a message saying the defenses were at their breaking point, and the area was totally wrecked. He ordered the troops to fall back to another defensive line. A young soldier next to him said that was crazy. He pointed out the dangers of trying to escape now, but the general insisted they had no other option. It was the only way to boost their chances of survival. Then he turned and saw our boy coming up, hands in his pockets, looking all cool. Tears filled the young soldier's eyes as he cheered, saying they didn't need to retreat anymore because he had shown up. Even the general celebrated, and right then, our well-drawn boy jumped straight into the battlefield. The general just stood there, looking silly. realizing the kid always brushed him off. But now, they were both hyped. It was time to strike back. A blonde soldier stepped up, vowing to give his life for the city. But our boy put a hand on his shoulder and asked for an update. The soldier said they had held the line for a while, but the front was running out of steam. Out of 50,000 troops, only 10,000 were left, and most were already worn out. Our boy was shocked that zombies were still popping up here. Good thing he showed up just in time. Then some soldiers, probably used to gaming at home, arrived looking fresh and said they were ready to fight with him. Lindsay summoned his spear, lit it up with fire magic, and charged into the zombie crowd. One went down, and the rest seemed more interested in fleeing than fighting. The spear's magic made bubbles form inside the zombies, which grew and then burst from within. The whole area was quickly turning into a wasteland. Our boy took out another one, pulled his spear back, spun it around, and unleashed a wave of flames. One blast hit the horde, then he threw the spear into another giant's chest. Man, that thing shot right through, exploded in the distance, and then came back to him. This weapon is totally hacked, right? While the Call of Duty guys stood there, stunned, our boy charged toward the army. Soon enough, he hit level 29, surrounded by a field of dead zombies. The soldiers were freaked out by how fast he kept leveling up. Meanwhile, Lindsay noticed his inventory was getting ridiculously full. Since he couldn't even feed the sword anymore, he started tossing stuff away. At that moment, General Zhang and the military saluted our boy, saying he had saved everyone. Our boy shrugged it off, saying it was no big deal, and even left some items behind on the battlefield for them. Then he just walked away. Later, he was in a cabin, flipping through the books he had picked up. One of them granted a random ability, and he prayed to the Holy Dragon for some luck. When he opened it, he got the Scarlet Pupil ability. His eyes now had a zoom feature, letting him see faraway things. Plus, he could create mental illusions in people's retinas. He thought the ability had to be good since he prayed to the Purple Dragon. Right away, he activated it and felt a sharp pain in his face. Every time this guy learns a new skill, his eyes bleed. The system cheered him on, and he looked at his hands, now showing a full 1008 vision. He took a look in the mirror and turned on the Scarlet Pupil. Suddenly, he could see the general way over there, and wow, this eye was even better than he expected. Then the system announced there were 15 minutes left before the horde was over, and he realized he wasted too much time just to learn this skill. He grabbed a weird fire orb and vanished from the cabin. The general was in a meeting room when our boy walked in and called for him. Right away, the guy bowed and thanked him, saying they wouldn't have survived the zombie horde without him. Lindsay brushed it off, saying it was all good, but he wanted to know if the general knew at least 4 top-ranked people. The general said he did, but asked why. Lindsay asked him to bring those people in because he'd explain once they were all there. The general agreed, but warned that gathering so many powerful folks would draw unwanted attention. A few minutes later, the room was filled with the strongest fighters. Then our boy revealed that the whole horde was controlled by the zombie emperor. Some were shocked, but admitted it made sense. The attack was way too coordinated. Then the protagonist reminded them that besides the zombie emperor, the Lee family was also to blame. The group agreed, saying countless people died in the attack and they needed to get revenge. At that moment, our boy revealed that once the event wrapped up, they'd have a chance to counterattack. But the decision would be made by a vote among the top players. If more than half agreed to fight back, the event would kick off. Basically, this would start a small-scale war between the strongest fighters from both sides. If they won, all the zombies in Jingsei would be weakened. If they lost, everyone involved would die, and rebuilding the safe zone would take a whole month longer. The guy with the bandana believed him, while the girl wondered if they were just walking into a death trap. Everyone was hesitant, tired from battle, and sure that fighting these zombies wouldn't be easy. But our boy reassured them, saying he could handle it alone, and they didn't need to worry. That was enough to ensure victory. The general hesitated but eventually nodded. He then told everyone to work with the kid, even though the group still looked pretty reluctant. With no other option, they forced smiles and said they were pumped to see what he could do. At that moment, system messages popped up for everyone, announcing they had successfully defended Jing City. Even the zombie emperor probably had no clue yet. The crowd cheered as they realized they had made it through the night. They charged at the remaining creatures which were now running away. Naturally, Lin Si was at the front. A system message popped up, asking if he wanted to start the counterattack. He clicked yes, and right away, it confirmed that all 10 top players had agreed. Watching the troops head out, the captain remembered a rumor about getting a platinum chest. This info had been bought from the in-game store, and now he figured Lin Zi knew about it too, which explained his drive for revenge. With that, the whole city buzzed with news of the counterattack. People were excited, saying that just playing defense was way too boring. Now they had a chance to go on the offensive and show what humanity could do. A huge system window appeared, broadcasting the battle to everyone. In the center of the arena, our boy and his monster had already shown up. The zombies coming out looked just like the aliens from Dragon Ball Z. Lindsay muttered that this zombie emperor of the shadow illusion was the one who had killed him in his past life. He never thought he'd run into him this soon. In the future, any zombie over level 90 would get the title of emperor. Plus, once they hit that level, they could control any creature they wanted. Before he died, our boy and the war gods formed a combat alliance. Of the 9 war heroes, 3 were from the government, 3 from the Lee family, and 3 had no faction. The downside of having no faction was that nobody really cared what happened to you. Some people wanted to help, while others aimed to take advantage and ruin their lives. And since our boy had become too powerful, the Lee family hired other players to take him out before he got out of hand. But today, the emperor who set this whole thing up would meet his end at our boy's hands. The system then announced that the fight would be to the death. Each side would send one participant who could use any weapon or gear. The match would wrap up when one side was wiped out. Our guy stood there eyeing the crowd, while that emperor who set this up was already shaking in fear. None of the enemies stepped up, and the system warned that if they didn't pick someone, one would be randomly chosen. Just then, the first fighter, a zombie with dragon wings, leaped into the arena. Lindsay figured they were underestimating him by sending out a level 18 zombie. He pulled out his sword, and the zombie took off running. Our guy noticed it was stalling, but he rushed in and slashed. The body dropped, leaving the clueless zombie crowd in shock. Wow, this zombie was really ugly. They realized they needed to rethink their strategy and couldn't waste any more time. Suddenly, a massive gray beast appeared in the arena. Our guy was impressed. It was a hybrid creature. They seemed to realize they couldn't mess around anymore, but that still wouldn't be enough to win. He charged in and slashed at its chest, but the creature looked totally fine. Our guy activated a sword technique and managed to stab its stone-like chest, but the blade got stuck. He saw that the creature seemed confident, but that wouldn't cut it. He twisted his sword and tore a chunk off its shoulder. He dodged, activated an aura on his blade, and jumped at the creature again while the zombies appeared to be chanting. Oddly, everyone was covering their faces, talking about some kind of ritual. A deep cut showed up on everyone's heads, and that giant was bleeding. The brute stretched out its arms, claiming this was for the zombies. Then it tore a piece off the first zombie's head and started eating it. The system explained this was a forbidden ritual, where the one consumed lost all their power while the one eating grew stronger. Lindsay had never seen anything like this before, but he knew he had to stop it fast. He shot a green slash at the brute, but the monster activated a super defense. The attack hit, but the creature had its arms closed in defense. However, our guy sent a tiny sword that slipped through its defenses and exploded inside. Yet even after that, the creature still stood strong. But at that moment, the vortex had been placed at its feet. Lindsay charged in, swinging his fiery sword. Finally, he managed to hurt the creature and even scored an item called the Stone Jar. The item gave him a shield that protected him, but it had a cooldown of 98 hours. While he was checking it out, a nasty presence came closer. It was a gross, decayed zombie. Lindsay just muttered that this one wouldn't last as long as the last one. He pulled out his sword, saying he needed to hurry and stop the ritual, then attacked. A huge green slime rose up with a monster inside, but our boy spotted the weakness in this move with his new eye. He unleashed another series of strikes, hitting the exact weak spot, and the creature looked like it was done for. This time, instead of something good, he got a terrible potion. He called for the monsters to come at him, but their leader was busy devouring everyone. Then the boss stood up and said it was too late because he was going to die. But Lindsay just replied that if it weren't for the arena's barrier, the zombie wouldn't even be able to talk. The creature took a few steps forward, and finally, he faced the Emperor of the Wind, a gold rank boss at level 24, plus 8 extra levels from eating his allies. Our boy was pumped. Someone with stats that high would definitely drop a great item. But then he hesitated because the system warned him he was entering a high-risk duel. Since he was risking his life, he figured he might as well get something out of it. Then Balloonhead muttered he never thought his plans would be messed up by one human. Lindsay started to wonder if the damn Lee family had already teamed up with the zombies. It made sense why the attack started right when they tried to escape and why the bosses showed up. Suddenly, the creature sent out a message to all humans, calling itself Hufeng. It announced that its race would wipe out all humans, including the so-called heroes trying to stop them. But our boy was right there, activating his fire technique. A green sphere formed around the zombie as he charged forward. The monster was caught off guard by his bravery and flew up into the sky. Our boy, who loved to provoke, asked if the creature was really going to run before the fight even started. At that moment, the zombies switched to Wen techniques, slammed the ground, and created a barrier against our boy's flames. He seemed to be struggling, while he said this was easier than he thought. As the zombie attacked, his sword sliced through and hit the monster right in the chest. The creature staggered back, and our boy got pushed away by the wind barrier. The monster tried to catch its breath, but it was already too late. Lindsay was right on top of it again. He swung again, but out of nowhere, the creature teleported into the air. Lindsay grinned, saying he just wanted to force that ability out since it always saved the monster. The creature was confused about how a human who didn't even know him could be aware of this ability. With no escape, it realized it had to fight with everything until the end and braced for another attack. Our boy threw his sword like a boomerang, and it hit the monster's attack head-on. The boss already had blood dripping from its nose from all the energy it was using. It unleashed another technique aimed at Lindsay. Lindsay was surprised the creature could use two skills at once. It seemed like this fight could drag on. Or maybe not, because the monster suddenly collapsed, drained from using too much mana. Our boy recognized that it must have some serious mental strength to pull that off. Seeing the creature stand with its eyes shut, he wondered if Ed had passed out. Everyone in the city was watching as our boy declared he would put an end to this suffering. He created a barrier, and even though the zombie had a wind wall up, he just stepped right into the attack. At the same time, he activated the scarlet pupil and watched the creature caught in the vortex. He saw that the monster was almost consuming itself with all the energy it was trying to use. Worried about losing his reward, he quickly activated his boot's teleportation and appeared right in front of it. He drew his sword and cleanly sliced off its head. With that, he turned off his eye, and the rewards started rolling in. Not only did he level up 3 times, but he also got a gold rank item and over 10,000 merit points. Along with a global announcement, everyone found out he had won. But honestly, they all knew he was the strongest anyway. Upon hitting level 30, the system announced he could try for a super cheat. Our boy knew all the cheats he had gotten so far were incredibly good. Around the crystal, everyone was celebrating, knowing that this victory weakened the zombies and gave more experience. They realized our boy had created the perfect chance for everyone to level up. At that moment, he showed up in the city with the top 10 players. The crowd wanted to show their gratitude, but he just told the big guy to make a scene and dashed into an alley. People were saying his fame had shot up again. Everyone said if he ever needed anything, he just had to ask. Lindsay thanked them and told everyone to take a break. They had really put in the effort today. Then, the system congratulated all players for not just surviving the invasion, but also for winning the counterattack. Thanks to that, Jing City not only secured its safe zone but also grew larger. There were 36 updates about the improvements, but to keep it simple, the city got stronger, and that was it. Looking back, our boy noticed the barrier going up. With the first issue sorted, it was time to chat with the general. While everyone was admiring the rising barrier, a global announcement went out, congratulating our boy for being the first to take down a gold-ranked boss. The poor folks who couldn't even handle a silver-ranked boss were clueless about how he did it. Meanwhile, his fans said they expected nothing less from their favorite. Back at the hotel, the big guy was munching on a huge chicken leg while our boy was trying to rest, until he suddenly got up, saying he couldn't sleep until he knew what his super cheat was. The ability he got was Space Expansion, which basically doubled his item storage. He thought it was odd. Why would a simple inventory upgrade be called a super cheat? Then, the system clarified that it not only let him interact with special space items, but also allowed him to enter his storage like it was a different dimension. He instantly got why it was labeled a super cheat. He was thinking about getting another hotel, but now he had no need for one. He had a portable home. Then he wanted to see how this new interaction with space items worked. The only space item he had were those boots that really boosted his speed. When he checked, he found out that thanks to the cheat, he now took 90% less damage while speeding up. Since that buff was so strong, he realized he needed more space items, so he decided to explore the new space he could access. As soon as he activated it, a blue light appeared and a portal opened. He stepped through and ended up in a completely empty room. It looked like a regular void until the system window popped up. He figured he could settle in nicely. He opened his inventory, grabbed a sofa card, and started arranging his new space. Then, he noticed a new item that caught his eye. A liquid from the ritual zombies. It boosted zombies and was great at drawing them in. He remembered it from his past life. It was ideal for anyone wanting to deal with zombies since they'd trade anything to get stronger. Of course, there's always some clueless human thinking, what if I drink this? You'd instantly turn into a messed up creature or a half-zombie, half-human, and end up dead. But our guy had the perfect fool to try this out. He stepped out of the teleport and found himself back in his room. He called his buddy and told him to take a sip. What? It looked super toxic, but once opened, it was just plain water. Without thinking twice, the monster glutton took a sip and started glowing with a blue aura. The system congratulated him for ranking high and said he'd get a reward. He urged it to hurry up and reveal what he got. It looked like a lightning technique, but it was only for magic users, so it was useless for him. The gold rank item he got was the Ring of Elements. It boosted spiritual power and improved mana recovery. He plopped down on the bed and asked the system to open the other reward windows. Where did these come from? I have no idea, but hey, they showed up. He cheered as he got a dagger and a ring. The dagger was gold rank, perfect for liking this video to help Memoru create more awesome content for you guys. Hit that cheeky little bell, and I'm out.